The link to the story will be in the description.
Reading, Sun's Heir, Death's Guardian 2, A Hero's Peril by Engineer Forever. 19. Disclaimer, I don't own Naruto or Percy Jackson and the Olympians. Naruto woke as he usually did with the sun, his eyes blearily opening to lock onto the dark patch of hair attached to the head that rested on his chest. So does his heartbeat lull you to sleep? Annabeth asked her friend in a mock-serious tone. She got a shove for her answer. Talia slept peacefully in the early morning despite not wanting to share a bed with him that night, he noted. That's called playing hard to get. Aphrodite noted smugly as Talia gritted her teeth in an effort to stay calm. He looked to his left, where Jason and Piper had set up some makeshift beds with the blankets and pillows Shizune brought them. He smirked at Piper's head resting on Jason's shoulder. Piper's mother cooed while the couple smiled. Yeah, they could see them falling for each other all over again. Seemed as though blondes were the new preferred choice of partner. You know, he's right, Leo exclaimed with a blink. Percy and Annabeth, Jay and Piper, other Talia and Naruto, not to mention the girls crushing on him. What is it? Blondes in season or something? Well, blondes are amazing, Leo, Apollo said smugly. True. Hermes smirked and ran his hand through his own tuft of sandy blonde. He frowned as he realized that meant Jackson would most likely go for his little sister. Well, Percy's in big trouble. Nico snickered, getting a frown from Percy. Naruto better not try and do something, or else. Well, there goes the plan of making friends with him. You're screwed. Shut up, Leo. Now he has to beat some awesome into the kid if he's going to date his little sister. Why are you so lame, Percy? Nico asked. I swear, corpse breath, I swear. Percy warned with a super death glare. Nico just shrugged it off. Well, more so than he had been before, anyway. It's a work in progress. Even if it is hopeless. Ares snickered, getting a glare from his mortal rival. Naruto chuckled as he recalled his last training session with Jackson before winter break ended. Ah, the 1,000 years of death lives on, Uro-Sennin. Naruto thought. Percy shivered along with Jason, feeling nothing but pity for their others. Knowing that once it was used on you, you were determined to get someone else with the same attack. Does that mean that your others are going to try and use it on someone? Hazel asked the two leaders with a glance. Yes, Percy said shamelessly, he could see his other doing it. Hell, he was so going to do it after even thinking about it happening to him. Maybe, Jason said unsurely. Percy gave him a look that made him admit with a touch of embarrassment. Okay, yeah, I would. It was in fact the ultimate attack/prank. Like the classic whoopee cushion, it would live on forever. Naruto was certain of it. Hermes hummed with a small smirk and glanced at his siblings. Hermes, I swear by order if you so much as think about this I will hunt you for a century. Artemis swore to her younger brother. The rest of the siblings agreed readily. The god of thieves held his chest in mock pain, such lack of trust. I'm hurt. Really? All he got from them were glares for his trouble. Talia grumbled something in her sleep and Naruto looked back down at her, then to the sunlight peeking through the window. With a small grunt of annoyance he let his head fall back to the pillow and tried to get some more sleep. It was to no avail because of Talia's sudden waking, pushing down on his stomach in the bed with a jolt. Wow, Talia, hurt your boy toy more, Piper said sarcastically. Watch it, McLean, or I'll shave your head, Talia threatened. She can grow it back with her powers. An empty threat, Aphrodite said with a huff as she waved off the threat, making the hunter glower. Talia, Naruto said with a gasp, his air leaving him from the force she put behind her push. Talia looked down at him, her eyes still a bit cloudy from sleep, until she realized what she was doing and where she was. She removed her hand from Naruto's stomach, letting him groan in relief. And here she thought she wasn't strong? Tell that to his bruised organs. I'm plenty strong, Talia said. Yeah, you just want to be stronger than that. Percy nodded. Shut up, nothing wrong with getting better. The lightning girl argued sternly. Sure, said Percy, rolling his eyes. He got a growl for the comment. Sorry, said Talia, having regained her bearings, evident by the spark that was present in her and her brother's eyes. There was something else in her eye though, a flicker of unease that had Naruto frowning slightly. You all right? Yeah, fine, said Talia, just a bit too quickly. Naruto wanted to push on it, but was stopped by her changing the subject. Wow, and you thought you were smooth. Naruto followed her gaze to the two younger teens and he chuckled again. Jason the player. Leo smirked, but frowned a second later. Yeah, don't see it, he said with a shake of his head. Agreed. Piper nodded as she snuggled into her boyfriend. Well, he is his father's son, Talia joked, getting Zeus to bristle in embarrassment while Hera frowned at that, giving a stern look to Jason. The son of New Rome started to sweat under his matron goddess gaze and swallowed heavily. I'd take credit for that, but right, Gigi's got some game. Zeus wanted to nod, but Hera's heated glare told him otherwise. Yeah, he liked sleeping in his own bed, thank you very much. Managed to make you, despite his old age. The God King flared his nostrils in anger as his brothers chuckled. Ha, ha, seeing as you two are older than me, he said, getting the older two of the big three to shut up. Talia smirked at that. She quickly got out of the bed, stretching as she did, and walked over to the resting duo. Oh gods, what are you going to do? Jason grimaced. Something funny, no doubt. Talia told him smugly. Yay. The younger brother cheered in monotone. Clearing her throat, she put on her best glare and locked it onto Jason. Her hands went to her hips and with her scowl in place, Talia woke her little brother with a loud, stern cry of Jason. Yes, shout at me in potential hostile territory. By all means, see what happens. Jason nodded mockingly to his sister. Hush, let us laugh at you. Was the snickering retort from his Greek sister. The hunter knew this was going to be gold. The younger Grace shot awake, fully alert and his trusty coin Julius in hand, ready to be flipped. I love seeing you like that, it's downright hilarious. Leo snickered to his buddy. Jason frowned, pouted, at that. It was not funny in his opinion, not at all. Consequently, his sudden return to the consciousness had succeeded in also jolting Piper from her rest. Aw, and she looked so happy right there. The Lady of Doves cooed. The Daughter of Love rolled her eyes, but yes, she no doubt was. And Talia had to ruin it, the jerk. Her hand went to the dagger resting at her side. She's getting better. Annabeth commented. Of course she would. Piper smirked, her other just needed time to adjust to the life is all. Blearily looking around while her bedmate was up and at him. Bedmate? Hazel laughed out, getting flustered looks from the couple. Jason's frantic search for danger ended when his eyes landed on the glaring form of his older sister. All of his courage left him when her electric blue eyes narrowed. Like he should. Talia nodded, getting a disbelieving look from Jason himself. No, I wouldn't. He argued. Talia turned to glare at him, getting the boy to sweat a bit. Okay, maybe. He muttered out. Yeah, I thought so. What did I do? I cannot believe you. Here I thought you had a bit more of the better qualities of our father, yet here you are, trying something so soon with a girl you just met. Oh, you did not, Jason cried out to his sister who was laughing her maiden ass off. I would so do that. The hunter laughed with glee as everyone, besides Zeus himself, joined in the bout of laughter. Jason just wanted to hide away somewhere. What but I? Naruto watched with a very amused smile on his face, his eyes catching the confused Pipers and winking at her, cluing her into the joke. Don't play along. The wind boy pleaded to himself. Piper smirked, she would so play along. The daughter of Aphrodite was quick to figure out what Talia had meant, spending most of the night after her mock lesson with Naruto had reignited her passion for learning about Greek mythology, or rather, Greek history. It was common knowledge among the basic students that Zeus was known as one of the more active of the big three, as Piper learned the brothers were called. Yes, he is. Hera frowned at her husband, who in turn looked away. Jason looked to his friend for some help, finding none as Naruto shook his head in shame with a displeased frown on his face. Jerk. The blonde frowned, eyes narrowed at the older boy on the screen. Inwardly, Jason felt betrayed by Naruto's silence and just a bit angry at the older teen. Hell yeah. Jason nodded to his other. Like Naruto hadn't ever woken up with a girl in his bed before, the hypocrite. What? Talia asked with a glare as Jason blinked in surprise. Naruto had boasted of his deflowering if only to shut up his Roman brothers, but the fact remains, Naruto was among the last people to be berating him for doing something like this. Oh, that, yeah, he shouldn't. The praetor nodded as his hunter of a sister simmered a bit at the recalling of that event. Some of the goddesses did too, and they glared at Apollo. The sun god just kept his eyes on the story, ignoring the sweat he was gaining from the intensity of their glares. Piper couldn't contain her amusement and let out a giggle, making Jason look at her in confusion. Seeing his face only furthered her amusement and made her burst into laughter. Jason frowned at this while Piper rubbed his shoulder with a quivering lip as she tried to not laugh along with her other. But of course, she failed miserably. Jason frowned at her laughter and turned back to Naruto, blinking as the whiskered blonde joined in with Piper. His gaze went back to his sister to see her scowl had fallen back into a smile. I hate you all. Oh, but Jay, we love you, Talia said, mockingly pinching his cheek. Jason batted the hand away, a scowl marring his handsome face. Oh my gods, Jason, I can't. Talia failed to finish her sentence because she followed her boyfriend's example, joining him and Piper in their laughter. Jason's scowl deepened. Jason looked around at the three, confusion written on his face. So wait. Does this mean I'm not in trouble? And in an instant, Jason turned red in the face as everyone laughed at him. Damn his other for embarrassing him. Naruto nearly split his gash back open, he was laughing so hard. Jason's naivety almost rivaled Jackson's, said boys sputtered in disbelief while their girlfriends kind of agreed with the older blonde. But his seriousness, appearance and nobility resembled Annabeth's. Annabeth smiled at that while Jason turned her, his embarrassment dialing down, and smirked at her. Shame he was Roman, otherwise Naruto wouldn't be sure who Jason's parent was. Zeus scowled at that as the gods laughed at him for it. Or in the previous comparison's case, parents. As he shared a laugh with Helios over the comparison between his little sister, Jackson and Jason, Naruto couldn't help but wonder what was going on at the camp. Not fun times. Was the synchronized retort of the sea and wise couple. It's at times like this that I wonder if I should have just stayed at camp, said Percy as they ran after the scurrying metal spider. Whine, 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 that's all you do, Jackson. Ares mocked, getting a glare from the boy's father. And kick your butt. Percy snarked back to the god. Why you little shit? The god sneered, but the strong look from his uncle told him not to move against Poseidon's son. The war god huffed and laid back into his throne. The kid wasn't worth it. The second Nico dropped it on the ground in the labyrinth that shot off into the darkness, barely staying in sight for a second. Hated that thing. Annabeth grumbled as the smith god huffed. He found it to be a wonderful little thing. The only reason they could still follow it was because of Grover and Tyson's excellent hearing, and Nico was just a bit faster than a lot of them. Eat my dust, chumps. Nico snickered to his two friends. Be quiet, Nico. Percy frowned at him for the remark. Still, how much training did this Nico have? Being able to keep a longer glance on it. Apparently running from the three-headed guard dog of the underworld around the river Styx is good for you, who knew? Indeed. Hades hummed and looked at his children, who started to sweat under his gaze. They did not want to do that, thank you very much. Please, you enjoy getting into trouble, Annabeth said jokingly as she panted and they rounded a corner. She caught a glimmer of the metal spider as it squeezed its way through a rather wooden and numbered door. Oh gods. Percy grimaced as Annabeth scowled deeply, glaring at the door. The faded bronze numbers painted onto the door was 101, with some words lost to time above it. Why does it feel like something funny is going to happen? Leo asked. Because if I think this is what I think it is going to be a riot. Nico smirked at Annabeth, who glared her best Athena glare back at him. It wasn't having much effect with her reddened cheeks. Okay, it's in there, we can take a break now, right? Grover asked, panting heavily. He didn't know how Juniper could handle running for so long, and he wondered what he did to be able to catch her. The goatee. Percy nodded, it was always the facial hair for those nymphs. Annabeth shook her head at his question. No, we have to keep going or we'll lose it. Joy, said Nico blandly. Maybe we should have asked for a leash. Smart thinking other me. Nico nodded in agreement as Annabeth blanched at the thought of that. Yeah, probably not the best idea, said Percy, noticing Annabeth's shiver at the thought of the metal arachnid lookalike on a leash. See? Nico pointed out. Perfect idea. I hate you, Nico. Love you too, Blondie. The child of Hades snickered. Taking another breath, Percy grabbed the door handle and pushed it open. Immediately, he blanched and regretted doing so. Why? He discovered his personal prison, a place most teens hate nearly every day of the week. What? Talia asked rhetorically. A classroom. You are such a baby. Talia told her cousin. Oh, shut up, tree girl. The boy scowled back to the hunter. The hunter did the mature retort of sticking her tongue at her wet-eared cousin. Crunch. Looking down, at his foot, he found a split bone that was hanging off the hip of a very old skeleton that was hanging off the door handle from within. And that's not creepy whatsoever, Leo said. Yep. Nico nodded, not seeing a big deal about it at all. Oh, wonderful. It was a classroom with skeletons. And I thought I would die in school, said Nico under his breath as the rest of the quest members followed Percy into the room. Ah, Nico, good one. Hades complimented his son with a chuckle. Dark humor was so funny. Nico beamed at that. The immortals, said Annabeth, covering her nose like Grover did. How can you two stand it? Son of Hades, said Nico nonchalantly. I hang out in graveyards all the time. Nico added. Satanic rituals? Leo asked humorously. The son of Hades gave the pyro a look. Not cool, dude. It made sense that the smell of decomposition wouldn't bother him as much as it would anyone else since he was the son of the Prince of Darkness. They turned to Percy. The stables were worse, he said. They were. Percy nodded solemnly. Yeah, you do good work for a pooper scooper, Jackson, Ares laughed, and that had gotten some snickers from the others. Percy burned red in the face from the mockery of the war god. Asshole. Percy's response was immediately understood and Nico's lips quirked up a bit in amusement. There was a clearing throat and the group looked at the other side of the room where they found the monster that made most of these skeletons. Percy palmed his face. This was going to be a nightmare. The sea child just knew it. Standing on a dais at the other end of the room was a very unique creature captured by the Egyptians in stone construct. The riddle monster? Piper asked to Annabeth, whose scowl was ever present. No, just no. Trust me. The blonde told her friend. The body of a large lion sat atop the dais, but where a feline head should be, a woman's was. Her hair was pulled back into a bun and the face would have been pretty, but she wore far too much makeup. Pinned to her chest was a blue ribbon that read, "This monster has been rated exemplary." Bull, Leo said in a bland tone. No, it was true. His father said with a light chuckle. Sphinx. Tyson immediately named the monster, a whimper escaping him as he saw it. Memories of running away and being attacked by a different Sphinx while on his own came crashing back and the young Cyclops swallowed loudly. His scars ached as the monster's human-like head looked over the newcomers to her domain. Percy and Poseidon frowned at that. They hated it when Tyson was upset. Percy stood protectively in front of his brother while Annabeth and Nico flanked him. Yes, protect the big baby. Ares rolled his eyes as the sea beings glared at him, even his full-blooded brother did as well. Tyson was sensitive. And there was nothing wrong with that. Nico's hand reached for his sword's handle while Percy fingered the pen-disguised riptide. Through their peripheral vision, the demigods saw the small metal spider scuttle through the sea of skeletons that was the ground and ducked beneath the Sphinx. Well, that doesn't make things any harder, Frank said blandly. Annabeth made to move forward, only to succeed in making the monster roar, revealing her large fangs as she did. Bad move. Hazel frowned. Annabeth wisely took a step back, real smart thinking there. Shut up, Nico. And her hand went to the knife pouch on her hip, slipping her fingers in to grip the handle of one throwing knife lightly in reflex. That's becoming a little staple of yours. Percy told the now pouting blonde. She wanted a set of throwing knives now. The Sphinx paid the demigod's actions no mind, coming back from her roar with a deceitfully sweet smile. It looks like one of those game show smiles. Piper commented, getting blanches from Percy and Annabeth. Bars fell down behind the group and behind the Sphinx, caging them in the room. Welcome new contestants, said the Sphinx with a brilliant smile on her face. No, Piper said with her mouth gaping along with the other demigods who weren't there. Yes. Annabeth nodded sadly. It's time to play, answer that riddle. Well, it should be easy, right? Jason asked Annabeth. Her face made him grow concerned. Right? Annabeth didn't even answer him, she just balled up her fists. As soon as the words left her mouth, spotlights behind her and set up around the room spun wildly like on a television show. A theme sounding eerily familiar to the Family Feud started to play along with generic audience reactions. Oh, that is just sad. The love child muttered, giving pitying looks to the Greek couple. Nico's hand dropped along with his jaw, and the jaws of the other two demigods. Oh, you have got to be kidding me, said Nico. Well, at least I get to get in on the action this time. The Ghost King smirked. He was sure to mess something up for the monster. Winners will receive fabulous prizes. The Sphinx continued as though the son of Hades hadn't spoken. Wow, rude much. Nico grumbled. Pass the test and you may advance, but fail and I'll eat you. Either way, I win. This is the master of riddles? Frank asked. No, this is something much worse. Percy assured the shapeshifter. Oh great, she's one of those teachers, said Percy. Honestly, the teachers who said far too much that they wanted you to succeed kind of grated on his nerves. Dude, I feel you. Leo nodded, along with some of the, less willingly educated demigods. Then again, they were better than Naruto, who literally put him on edge whenever he was teaching Percy about Greek myth or history. So he is learning. Talia awed, getting Percy to glower at her. That was something Naruto was adamant about putting, or rather pounding, into Percy's brain. It's not a myth if it's true. Amen, said the gods together. Another thing Naruto did was incorporate the damn height measurement lesson into pop quizzes, where Blackjack once again gleefully helped the blonde. That traitor, Percy cried out with clenched hands. What was Naruto doing to get his trusty steed to help torture the son of the sea? As far as Percy was concerned, Blackjack was not getting any donuts for a while. Blackjack likes donuts? Annabeth asked in surprise. Guilty pleasure. Percy answered his girlfriend. Huh. Learn something new every day. I'll handle this, said Annabeth, relaxing a bit and took an unfortunate contestant's place, knocking it to the ground with a loud clatter. Wow, cruel to the dead Annie? Hush Talia. The blonde pouted at her. Sorry? See? Annabeth pointed out, I apologized. Yes. Yes you did, Annie. Good job. The hunter rolled her eyes with a playful smile. Welcome, Annabeth Chase. That certainly got the rest of the group to share a concerned glance since Annabeth hadn't said her name. Do monsters have lists with our faces and names? Just asking, Leo said, getting nods from the other demigods. It was really weird. Well, you have slight fame with what you've done and then there's the monster networks in Tartarus. So yes, they do tend to know of the more active ones of you. Hades supplied. Percy blinked, that is so weird. Are you ready for the test today? Athena's child are always ready. Poseidon snickered, getting a glare from his rival. I'm ready, said Annabeth with a confident nod. Ask your riddle. Actually now it's 20 riddles, isn't that exciting? Asked the Sphinx, eager to begin. What? Said everyone minus the gods and the demigod couple. Nico swallowed a bit to dampen his now dry mouth. She seems a bit too excited about this, he said softly. Percy nodded in agreement, his hand now holding Riptide tightly. He was ready to jump in if the case need be. Thanks Seaweed Brain. Annabeth told him, getting a smile from the boy himself. Anytime wise girl. Annabeth, meanwhile, was bewildered. But back in, would you rather accept the failure? Asked the Sphinx, of course she wouldn't. Poseidon muttered with a glance to his rival, who glared right at him and huffed. Of course a child of hers would never wish to fail. A wide grin on her face that once again showed off her sharp teeth. As you can see, I am perfectly fine with that. Yeah, I'm sure she would be, Hazel said blandly. Easy meal. Annabeth worriedly looked to the group. Nico gripped his sword but stayed his ground, giving her his silent support. Thank you Nico. No prob. Grover and Tyson both straightened up, though Tyson's eye was flickering between her and the Sphinx. Her gaze locked on Percy, who gave her a reassuring nod, before she turned back with a rekindled fire in her eyes. As only a love interest could. Aphrodite smiled as the couple looked at one another with a smile. I'm ready. The Sphinx frowned in disappointment, obviously looking forward to a free and easy meal. Ares cupped his mouth, boo. Work for your meal, you lazy pussy. Ares. The war god laughed off his mother's glare. Someone had to say it. But accepted the demigoddess' choice. With a sigh, she stamped her paw on the dais and a thin test booklet along with a brand new number 2 pencil appeared before Annabeth on the podium where she stood, mystifying the daughter of Athena. This is a written thing? Leo whispered in disbelief with the others. Okay, this is just getting weird now, Nico said with a blinking look. Number 1. The Sphinx's excited voice snapped Annabeth from whatever questions were running through her head. A drumroll started before the Sphinx spoke again. What is the capital of Bulgaria? What? Said most of the demigods while Athena scowled. The Sphinx had fallen in the years. It was almost sad if it didn't irk the wisdom goddess. Annabeth blinked, stunned at the question that she was asked. I know. Annabeth nodded to her other. It worried Percy for a moment, while Grover and Nico seemed to mimic Annabeth's confusion, before the girl found her voice. S. Sophia, but, how do you know that? Piper asked the blonde. Easy. Was the only answer the love child received. Correct, said the Sphinx, her smile wide, but not as wide as before. No doubt hoping she got it wrong, Jason said blandly, this was kind of painful if all the questions were like this. Make sure to mark your answer correctly on your test sheet. Fill the bubbles in clearly, but stay inside the lines. If you have to erase, be sure to erase completely or else the machine can't read your answers. So was it multiple choice or maybe be please? Annabeth pleaded, her eyes looking tired just hearing all this again. And if the machine? She officially fails. Piper frowned, this was, just wow. The Sphinx growled a bit at being interrupted, but put a pleasant smile back on her face before gesturing to a box set near one of the spotlights to the side. It was bronze, covered in gears and levers, but what really sent the quest takers for a spin was Hephaestus' mark, Ada, being on the side of the box. Seriously? Leo asked his father. The smith god shrugged, it was funny or at least he thought it was. As I was saying, if the machine can't read your answers, it's automatically wrong, and if it's wrong, well, I think you know what happens then, said the Sphinx, another feral grin on her face. So wait, one wrong and you get swallowed? Frank asked, wouldn't it make more sense to do riddles? Yes it would have. Annabeth huffed irritably. It fell once more for the pleasant smile to return. Next question. Wait a minute, what about the riddle about man? Annabeth asked. Yes, please regale us with the tale, Hades chuckled. Oh, that riddle grew old and that snooty little Oedipus spread the answer around with his boasts, said the Sphinx, her hackles raised in the memory of the man that solved her famous riddle. Should have made more than one then. Athena rolled her grey eyes. Shaking her anger off, the Sphinx smirked. Got his comeuppance in the end, though, didn't he? The god snickered, he really did. And, well, Hera found me to still be useful and offered my services to several of the other gods. Hephaestus took to me instantly. The rest, as they say, is history. Is that a good enough reason, Annabeth Chase, or would you like me to think up another? A little mocking, isn't she? Nico asked aloud. Annabeth bristled at the Sphinx's words. So because one guy solved the riddle she had to deal with 20 of them? She glanced past the monster to the bars where the metal spider had dashed through. Slippery little thing, isn't it? Leo asked with a snicker as his father smiled. Before looking back with determination written on her face. Maybe they'll get harder, and more riddle-like, as they went on. No, don't get your hopes up. Annabeth pleaded to her other. Fine, she said, marking the answer with a displeased frown on her face. These questions better get harder. The blonde just palmed her face, she wanted to weep for her other. Good, second question, said the Sphinx. Annabeth crossed her arms over her chest as the drums rolled again. What is the square root of 16? Math, Percy hissed, the vile creation of numbers. Oh, for the love of. 4. Annabeth marked the answer with a very noticeable scowl on her face. Yeah, she's going to blow, Nico said in a bored, but with an undercurrent of glee, tone. The Sphinx paid it no mind, however, simply smiling. Correct. Which president of the United States signed the Emancipation Proclamation? Abraham Lincoln, the 16th president, said Annabeth, her teeth gritting in annoyance. They weren't getting harder, nor were they becoming riddles. Percy started to count down with his fingers as Annabeth slapped his arm with a frown marring her face. Correct again. Don't forget to mark it down, dear, said the Sphinx. Next no. And there she goes. The son of the sea sighed out as Annabeth huffed, her nose in the air. She was well in her right to be upset. I beg your pardon? The Sphinx asked, a look of annoyance crossing her own face. I refuse to answer these questions, said Annabeth. So, master of questions? Frank asked with a laugh, getting some snickers. Riddles, dear, said the Sphinx with a huff. No they aren't. Athena frowned, understanding perfectly what her daughter was feeling. It was insulting. Now, how much force is required to they aren't riddles, said Annabeth as she slammed her hands onto the podium, cutting the Sphinx off. Riddles are supposed to make you think. Yeah. Annabeth cheered on her other as Percy sighed, rubbing his eyes tiredly. How in the world would I test how you think? These riddles are sanctioned to test your mental capacity and whether you are worthy or not to move forward. Sanctioned? Hyper blinked. How are these sanctioned? She just says that. Athena scowled, honestly, the nerve of this monster. They are not riddles, Annabeth said, openly showing her displeasure over the whole scenario. You tell her, girl. Annabeth, please, stop. Percy asked her. Annabeth glared at him so hard, he shrunk into himself with a gulp. I mean, do what you want, by all means. He got a happy nod from that. Annabeth, can't you, just play along? Percy asked, I know. Percy muttered as his girlfriend glared at him once more. Getting her to turn around and glare at him. And we see who wears the pants in the relationship, even before it happens, Ares laughed as Percy glared at him. Athena smirked at her rival at that one. Funny, one would say the same about you. Demeter huffed. Ares shut up after that comment while Hephaestus snorted. Yeah, just answer the questions so we can move on, said Grover, agreeing readily with his friend and eager to go back to finding Pan. Patience, young goat. Apollo told the other Grover. I'm a child of Athena, the goddess of wisdom and a goddess of intelligence, said Annabeth, her arms crossing once again as she looked back at the Sphinx with a stink eye. These questions are an insult to my intelligence. I refuse to answer any more. There's the hubris, Poseidon said with a look to his rival, must all your children share your big head? Oh, be silent, squid god. She mocked him back, getting a stormy glare from the sea god. Oh great, said Nico dryly. She's got a big head. Excellent call, nephew. The sea god smirked, getting a snicker from Nico. Athena glared at Poseidon and Annabeth glared at Nico for his comment. I heard that, Nico. Yeah, Nico. You were meant to, Annabeth. Yeah, Annabeth. Nico jeered back smugly while the blonde bristled. Well then, Annabeth Chase, if you won't pass, then you fail, said the Sphinx, that eager fang-filled smile back on her face. She'd make a lousy teacher, Leo said, getting nods all around. The spotlights spun around until they shone obnoxiously in the demigods, satyr and cyclops eyes. Okay, that's a good move on her to get you guys. Apollo admitted. Artemis begrudgingly nodded. The Sphinx continued, her eyes now dark as the night. And since you fail, that means you would be held back. The fiend, Annabeth cried out, she would never be held back. I can't have that stain my perfect record, so you'll just have to be eaten. The best way to get rid of the evidence, Ares chuckled as his sister glared heatedly at him. Annabeth move, said Nico, unsheathing his sword as Percy prepared Riptide. The blonde girl did, diving out of the way as the monster pounced at her. Coming out of the roll she dove into, Annabeth pulled out one of her throwing knives and tossed it at the Sphinx's eye. Okay, that was impressive. Talia whistled in praise while Annabeth crossed her arms with a huff. She could do that. Easily in fact. The monster's small human-like head ducked under the knife and it once more pounced at her. Ooh, just missed her, Apollo snapped his fingers, would have been an epic shot if she did nail it. Tyson came to Annabeth's rescue by tackling the Sphinx mid-air, an angry cry coming from the Cyclops' mouth as he did. They landed in a pile of bones with a loud crash. Go big man. Leo cheered like it was wrestling. Annabeth smiled at Percy's half-brother, he was such a nice Cyclops. Percy, Grover and Nico made their way to Annabeth's side, Grover helping the daughter of Athena back to her feet while Percy and Nico covered them. Nico had fallen into an alien stance that Percy for the life of him didn't understand, the sword held at an angle in front of the partially crouching son of Hades. Nico pursed his lips, he didn't have sword training then and even the swordsman didn't recognize the stance, well Japanese style huh? Ares surmised and looked at his pale cousin. Unorthodox. It looked official and quite frankly, kind of cool. Nico sent a smug look to Percy, who stuck out his tongue at his younger cousin. Tyson got back to his feet, his shirt clawed and torn, standing in front of the two sword-ready demigods. Sadly, so did the Sphinx, her mouth curled into a snarl as she tried to find an opening to get to the failed student. She must be really hungry. Hazel pointed out blandly. Annabeth moved to join the two boys, but Percy took another step in front of her. Hey! Annabeth frowned at that. Just worried. Percy smiled at her. Fine. Put your hat on, he said. What? No. I can fight, I killed Jirian didn't I? Letting it get to your head Hermes sang out with a smirk to his niece. Annabeth crossed her arms with a pout. Yeah, but she's after you, said Percy. Let us handle her and stay out of the way so we don't have to worry about you. What? Annabeth said, her pout tuning into a frown, aimed towards Percy. Who in turn, started to sweat under the gaze a bit. You don't have to worry about me. I know. Hey, I know that you both have this thing, okay, even the 11-year-old is calling you out on it. Talia snickered as the couple blushed. But let's save it for after the monster is dead, okay? Nico asked. Annabeth, just do what Percy says. This way if you get an opening you can take a shot without risking your location. Percy, you're with me on distraction. Hades raised a black brow at this, it seems you've learned much in 6 months Nico. He told his son in approval while Nico was also looking surprised how his younger self took charge. That's actually a really good idea, said Annabeth, a bit upset she hadn't thought of it. Nico gave the blonde the smirk, that made her brow knit in anger at the fact an 11-year-old made a plan like that so fast. Like I said, a big head. Okay, you said it once, we get it. Annabeth grunted with crossed arms. Nothing wrong with a healthy reminder. Shut up, Nico. Shut up, Nico. Wow, Annabeth Chase, now in stereo. Leo whistled. Annabeth, hat, Percy said as Tyson dropped his massive fist atop the Sphinx's head as it tried to take a chunk out of his shoulder, making the monster growl at the Cyclops and back away. Bring the smack down, big guy. Jason smirked, it was nice to know that they had good monsters on their side. Right, said Annabeth, pulling her Yankees cap out and onto her head. She vanished and aside from the soft shuffling of through the bones, she was gone. Grover, hang back, said Nico. Big guy, let her through. And I'm just that good of a leader, Nico said smugly. Now if only you could be as good as 11-year-old you. Annabeth jeered. Ouch, Nico frowned at her, glaring a bit. Annabeth just looked smugly back at him. Tyson looked back quickly at Percy, Aw, listen to me for once. Nico pouted. Percy snorted, like Tyson would. He was his awesome brother after all. Who nodded, before quickly backing away from the Sphinx. The two cousins stood tense as the Sphinx growled at them. Where is she? She failed and must be dealt with. Wow, I'd hate to go to her school. Piper shivered, it did not sound fun. Only one I see being dealt with is you, ugly, said Nico, making the Sphinx's hackles rise again. Yes, taunt the big cat Nico. Percy shook his head. Meh, if it works, it works. Exactly. Hermes nodded to his youngest cousin. The whole lot of you are going to feed me for days, said the Sphinx, leaping at the son of Hades. Nico ducked to the left and swung at the underside of the Sphinx, cutting her flesh. Nice, Nico cheered on his other as Hazel joined him. Her leap interrupted from the slash via Nico's Stygian blade. The Sphinx landed about as gracefully as an elephant, crashing on her side into a giant mound of skeletons. Poetic. Hades smirked, inwardly cheering for his son to show up Poseidon's boy. The Sphinx growled as she got up, taking a bronze throwing knife to the shoulder as soon as she had. Snipe that cat, Chase, Apollo laughed along with Hermes. She swiveled her gaze to where the knife had come from after roaring in pain and anger. A skeleton shifted and the Sphinx's eyes glistened in excitement, becoming cat-like slits as she prepared to pounce again. Percy ran forward, using a mound of decomposing bodies as a springboard to jump and slash down at the Sphinx's head, missing the ideal target as the Sphinx leapt once more. Boo, you suck, Percy. Poseidon glared at his snickering nephew for the remark. But getting a good deep cut into the Sphinx hindquarters. Oh yeah, I suck. Percy mocked to the war god. Once again, the Sphinx landed with a crash, really, really badly. Fuck you, Jackson. Growling at the son of Poseidon before being put on the defensive as Nico rushed forward through the shadows to her right, stabbing in the direction of her ribs. Excellent use of short-ranged shadow travel. Hades mused as he observed the fight intently. The Sphinx dodged by leaning back on her hindquarters, but then took another bronze throwing knife to the side, just below her ribs. I can see her being really annoyed by that. Hermes pointed out. Little brat. I'm going to savor your corpse. Yep, really, really annoyed. Well, she's got some good banter, said Nico, having stepped back to stand next to Percy. Percy arched a brow in question, prompting Nico to shrug. Kushina said that banter was a very necessary part of fighting. Loving my other's wife, Apollo said jealously. If done well, it can help you manipulate your opponent. Very true. Athena nodded, this red-headed woman was someone to look forward to seeing in the story. I'll bet, said Percy, recalling how he and Naruto enraged the Nemean lion in the winter with jeers to make it roar. That was funny. Talia smirked, remembering that moment in the last book. Heads up, said Nico, both boys diving forward and a bit to the right and left respectively as the Sphinx charged at them. They brought their swords up and swung their swords at the same time in a show of impressive synchronization, cutting both of the Sphinx's concealed wings off. See? We work well together. Nico told his cousin with a S. His jaw popped open as Annabeth put her staff into the pack, watching it disappear into thin air. All she needs is a little top hat. Leo snickered while Percy was considering her in one of those female magician outfits. Percy Jackson liked what he saw. What the heck was that? He asked while Nico thankfully drank the water. What? Annabeth asked, zipping her bag up. Oh, she acts so nonchalant. Percy grumbled as Annabeth smiled at him. It looked a little too smug for his liking. Even if it make her look cute. Your bag? How'd you fit your cane in there? It's a staff in magic, duh. Annabeth answered. Oh, Percy rolled his eyes. Forgive me, Lady Chase, he said dramatically. You are forgiven, Squire. First of all, Percy, it was a staff. See? Be quiet, wise girl. Secondly, seals. Duh. Magic, duh. Percy mocked his pink-cheeked girlfriend, before she snapped out of it. Seals? I learned how to make seals. Annabeth squealed in glee as Athena looked like a ruffled owl. Something Poseidon gleefully notified her on. The goddess was not jealous of her other's daughter. Oh, you just have to rub it in my face that I can't do seals, don't you? Percy asked playfully. Oh, yes I would, Annabeth said shamelessly, getting Percy to look mock hurt. Ouch, Annabeth, right here, he said pointing to his heart. The blonde just kissed his cheek apologetically. Naruto had kept good on his offer to try to teach the boy seals, but it didn't go so well. I wonder why? Talia asked sarcastically, getting Percy's ears to burn pink. Academically challenged much? Nico mocked him slightly. Percy muttered about lousy cousins and too much teasing. Not because of the lack of cha-cha or whatever Naruto called that energy, Since Naruto would supply it and then some, so we need chakra and Naruto supplies it, I see. Annabeth observed and was really jealous of her other right now. She wanted her own Naruto. Right now. But it was because of Percy's ineptitude when it came to complicated equations or formulas. Math, why do you take everything cool away from me? Because you can't think that well? Shut up, lousy pinecone face. Talia just smiled happily. He just couldn't wrap his head around it. Thankfully, Naruto understood, saying it took him nearly one whole year with his master, who was a master at it, to just get the basics down. At least he isn't ragging on me, Percy said with a smile at finally getting support. Annabeth, however, was a natural and was quickly becoming Naruto's star pupil in the subject. Of course she would, little miss suck up. Ares jeered his niece. She's merely learning like the well-educated young woman she is. Athena sniffed at her idiot brother. Like I said, suck up. Though she was miffed that she couldn't write notes down or experiment without him present. Baby steps, dear. The wisdom goddess said. Annabeth gave a sad nod, knowing that was true. Yep, said Annabeth as she smirked at Percy while slinging her bag over her shoulder. So, you ready to meet Hephaestus? Not really, said Percy. Mr. Positive. Shut up, Nico. Give me a minute, said Nico. Wait, does this make Nico Mr. Positive? Leo asked. I don't know, he's always been emo by that time, it's really hard to tell. Talia thought out. Nico just scowled at his hunter cousin, stupid deer stalker. Yes, Tyson said excitedly, barely restraining himself as he walked forward and grabbed the wheel, twisting it and throwing the door open. Excitable little guy, isn't he? Hephaestus asked his uncle. Tyson has always had that spark in him, gets it from Percy. The sea god said with pride. Jackson must get it from his mother. Hades smirked, getting a scowl from his middle brother. Zing. Oh hush Hermes. The earth shaker brooded. Steam rushed out and the spider scuttled in, Tyson right behind it. Percy gave a smile to his brother's excitement, he loved that about him. They entered into what could only be called a mechanic's paradise. Leo was on the edge of his seat, eager to see it. Tyson was nearly drooling at all the neat things his massive eye could rest on. There were hydraulic lifts with cars and other strange machines on them, a bronze hippolectrion with its head resting on the ground beneath it, a metal lion hooked up to what looked like a car battery. I want to build that, and that, and that. Leo pointed out like a kid in a candy store. The father of the boy gave a soft rumbling laugh. And a gleaming gold chariot with the Greek sun adorning the front and a small dent in its side. That would be Jason's fault. It was the fire horses. Jason argued with his sister. Well, maybe if you drove a bit better. Funny, didn't someone have their eyes closed the entire time? Uncalled for. Talia pouted as her little brother looked smug. There were many other smaller projects resting upon what had to be at least 12 workbenches, and Percy's eyes lingered on a few bronzed arrows with schematics hanging behind them. Naruto has his own station? Leo whined, no fair. Most likely an idea bench, said Hephaestus, making Leo concede to that, but still. One arrowhead was glowing a bright gold, taking him back to the whiskered blonde son of Apollo. Everything seems to in the story, Percy said in a mild miffed tone. They walked forward into the workshop and as they did so a faint sound could be heard alongside some banging. So hot. I want to get you alone. You're so hot, I want to get you stoned. So hot, I don't want to be your friend, I want to fuck you like I'm never gonna see you again, ooh ow. Kid Rock, good taste hef. Apollo shined to his Smith brother. The god of fire shrugged, he just listened to the radio to him some noise, nothing else. Who? Talk about a heated song. And that was Kid Rock So Hot here on 100.7 FM, The Sun, home of all your hottest hits of the summer. The Sun? Artemis asked her brother blandly as Hermes also gave him a look. I don't run it, but that is one of my subdivisions, Apollo said, shrugging. Next up, let's go back to the pop-in styles of Justin Timber. The radio DJ was cut off as someone grunted and turned off the radio with a loud click. Good call. Talia scrunched her nose, yuck. Talk about bad taste in music. The banging resumed and the group found themselves looking at a '98 Toyota Corolla, nice model. Leo mused, observing the car. He wanted to see his dad in his natural habitat. Or rather, at the legs of the large man underneath it. He had on gray pants, dark boots that were on feet larger than Tyson's, and one leg had a metal brace wrapped around it. The metal spider skittered under the Toyota and got the man to stop his banging once again. Spiders tend to do that. Annabeth shivered. Well, what have we here? Said a deep and gruff voice, one that sounded faintly familiar to Percy, having heard it before. You did. The smith grunted. selective hearing? Percy blamed. So basically our dad's famed skill? Talia snarked, getting ruffled looks from the sky and sea god. Even if all the other gods agreed with that statement. The man came out from under the car on a back trolley, standing up with the spider in his hand. His appearance was vastly different from the one he had when on Olympus, since he was in the sanctity of his workshop. His left shoulder fell lower than the right and his head was a bit disfigured, bulging in one spot with a rather nasty scar around it. Aphrodite grimaced as Leo frowned at his dad's look. That had to hurt. The smith god just shrugged, not caring about his appearance. He wore a gray jumpsuit smeared with oil, ashen grim, one of the cleanest parts being the embroidered over the pocket. His beard was long and untamed, and what looked like the occasional fire seemed to start in it. That won't happen to me, will it? Leo panicked, he thought of growing a beard. Meh, maybe. The god shrugged. That didn't reassure Leo at all. Hephaestus, god of the forge, stood before them in his semi-natural state, playing with the small spider that he swiftly disassembled and reassembled with ease. The small metallic spider crawled around in his massive hands that treated it with the utmost care. Wow, Leo whistled, he could never hope to do something at that speed. There was a gleam in the god's eye, one of pride and one of amusement. Yeah, playing with his little toys. Ares mocked. Go hump your mini gun. Don't tell me what to do. There, much better, he said. The spider did one last lap around Hephaestus' arm before stopping in his palm. It gave a happy flip, shot a metallic web at the ceiling, and went swinging away. The demigods got a laugh out of that along with some of the gods. That was cool. Nico was unable to stifle the amused snicker that escaped him at the sight, bringing Hephaestus' attention to them. The god looked them over, his eyes lingering on Nico's sword handle for a moment, before gazing intently at them. Already know who you belong to. The smith told the god with a grin. I didn't make you, did I? I'm pretty sure they are ours, Poseidon said to the fire god. Not what I meant. The hammer user chuckled. No, sir, said Annabeth after she thought about his question. Initially she had thought he meant with a woman, but realized that this was a craftsman in front of her and thought them something else. Only he could mistake you do something like that. Hera shook her head as her son rolled his eyes at her. Good. Shoddy workmanship if I did, said Hephaestus. Athena, Hades, and Poseidon glared at the smith god. Hephaestus just shrugged off the looks without care. That was his opinion and he was sticking to it. He scratched his beard as he looked them over again. Half-bloods. Could be automatons, but most unlikely. Really? Apollo asked his brother. The god in question shrugged. What? They could have been. Leo just snickered. We've met before, sir, said Percy, shuffling a bit where he stood as the god's gaze fell over him. Have we? The gods just looked at their smith with solid blinks, as if asking, really? Hephaestus just grumbled. Yes, sir. Last winter. Last winter? He stroked his beard once more and thought, yes, you're Poseidon's boy. Hephaestus nodded, his hand dropping to his side. See? It's not so hard when you think about it. Poseidon told his now grumbling nephew. You were there with Nat. Who? Piper asked. I think he means Naruto, Jason whispered. Aw, you have a nickname for him. Apollo sang out with a blinding smile. Guess so. Was the only answer he got. Made the fish tank, you know. For the Ophiutorus. Yes, we remember. Wow, self-importance much? Ares mocked his full-blooded brother. The smith just gave him a heated glare. Took a few days, a couple of remeasurements every now and then. As he spoke his eyes fell over the last two members, first Grover. A satyr. Then they landed on Tyson, and the harsh gleam that had been in his dark eyes seemed to lighten a bit. Always did have a soft spot for them. The sea god told his nephew with a twinkle in his eye, and a tugging smile was on Hephaestus' face from the comment. And a cyclops? What are you doing traveling with the half-bloods, boy? Questing of course, can't go anywhere without Tyson. Percy smiled. Tyson only stared in wonder at the god. For him, it was like meeting an idol. Why, thank you, Tyson, glad to have some respect around here. I see, said Hephaestus. See what? His starstruck gaze? Apollo asked. I'm not that bad. Apollo snorted, his brother had as much people skills as a hammer. He nodded in silent agreement before looking at the ragtag group once again before his eyes latched onto Nico's sword. You must really like my works, nephew. Hades smirked to the smith. Don't get much of your medal, uncle, sue me. Shaking himself from his thoughts, Hephaestus looked back at Percy. So why are you here? The suspension on this Corolla is shit and my time is wasting with the interruption. Oh, hear them out. Leo rolled his eyes playfully. His father just grunted. Sir, said Annabeth, getting the god's attention. We're looking for Daedalus. We were hoping that Daedalus. Hephaestus' demeanor changed from annoyed to outraged, his eyes hardening once again and his beard bursting into flame. Flame on. Nice Leo, Apollo laughed with Hermes and Ares as the smith looked at his son, betrayed. Leo shrugged, what? It's funny. The misshaped god grunted, it kind of was. What would the likes of you want with that scoundrel? Seeking him out, are you daft? Athena looked offended while the smith paid her no mind. It was true at the time. No, sir, we need his help, said Annabeth. The camp is in trouble. The god snorted. The camp is always in trouble, said Hephaestus with a roll of his eyes as his beard went out. He seriously has a point, Percy said, my first, second, third, and fourth summer. Every year, always summer. Percy, stop complaining. Yes, Annabeth. The boy sighed with a hung head. Athena sent her rival a smirk, as the sea god glared at her. You're wasting your time. He hobbled over to one of his workbenches and within seconds had constructed a bronze and silver falcon that flew around the room, making Tyson laugh gleefully. The kind gleam reappeared in Hephaestus' eye as he regarded the Cyclops now petting the mechanized falcon that landed on his shoulder. His dad really liked Cyclopes, Leo affirmed in his mind. The only one he knew was Tyson. He wondered what the elder Cyclopes were like. Hopefully way nicer than Ma Gasket. I sense you want to tell me something, Cyclops. Speak your mind, son. Tyson's smile and the finger that was prodding at the metal bird's beak dropped. Why yes, sir. We met a 100-handed one, Poseidon sighed, wishing the others were around, it would have saved them a lot of trouble in the war. To his credit, Hephaestus hardly blinked. Briars? Yes. He was scared. Wouldn't help us. Wuss. Ares, Zeus said in a strong tone, glaring at his son, Briars had every right to fear after his confinement. It was partly their fault for not keeping an eye out for them or searching for them sooner. Even though it was too late by then. And this surprised you. It wasn't a question, but a statement of fact. So blunt. Athena deadpanned as her half-brother shrugged. Hephaestus could see the unease written on the Cyclops' face as clear as one could feel Ares' bloodlust enter a room. And that's pretty clear. Fuck off in your car, Sunspot. No, thanks, I got ladies for that. Yes. Greatly. Briars should be strong. Older and braver than Cyclops, but he ran. Tyson seemed very upset by this event. He comes around Tyson, all because of you, Poseidon said with pride. True. Hephaestus nods. I understand, said Hephaestus. I looked up to the Briars once too, young Cyclops. Back during the First War, I saw no superior to my craft than them. Modest. Well, I am the smith god. The Fire Lord smirked to his wise sister, and at least I give credit where it's due. Athena just scowled at him. They were good acquaintances. But time has changed things, people, monsters, and even the gods. Hephaestus seemed to drift off, his eyes clouding with a bit of anger. True, Artemis said bluntly as the gods grumbled at her comment. Look at my loving mother, Hera. Aw, you can just hear the love in his tone, Ares chuckled as Hera glared at her war son. Also, she was upset that her son was about to ruin her image with most of the demigods. She had an image to protect after all, and that was going to sink a tad in a matter of moments. You've met, I'm sure. She's one of the few that know where I can be found. She spouts all sorts of things about love and family that would make Hestia jealous. Hestia did give her youngest sister a look while Hera had a dusting of pink on her beautiful face. But she's no more than a hypocrite. Most of the demigods, besides Percy and Annabeth blinked. Hera had a scowl coming to her face. Took one look at me and cast me down from Olympus. I thought that was Zeus? Leo said. Yeah, my mother wishes. His father said with a humorless laugh. But I thought that was Zeus, said Nico with a frown. Hephaestus snorted. You'd be wrong, halfling. My mother likes having good PR, that is the phrase, yes? And so has my father tell that story to cover for her. Talk about taking a bullet. Hades rolled his eyes as his sister glared at him for the remark. What? It was all true. Not like he minds. Order knows he's got enough of a bad rep for it to be accepted. So true. The elder brothers chorused, getting the king to glower at them. Can't trust anyone these days, not even family. Hestia frowned at that, looking depressed as the hearth matched her mood. Leo was frowning for his father. Ouch dude, seriously. You trust Naruto, though, said Annabeth, making Hephaestus look at her. The fire god looked interested at this statement. You make weapons for him. We've seen them. I have? Arrows, said Hephaestus, correcting her. Oh, yeah. No big deal there. The smith said with a shrug. And they take a second to make. A snap of my fingers and they are together. See? Just a meager little job. Not much effort, Hephaestus said with an eye roll. This does not mean I trust Nat. But you like him, a little. Apollo smiled. Meh. Naruto, said Percy, correcting the god. The fire god turned to Percy, giving him a look. I know what I said Hephaestus with a scowl. Of course I do. Honestly, why that name I'll never know. Naruto. Bah, sounds like a bad food. Hey. Apollo frowned, it means maelstrom. Still sounds like bad food. Doesn't it also mean fish cake? Hephaestus asked. The god snickered as Apollo turned a shade of red. My nephew does have talent, though. That piqued the smith god's interest. Why call him Nat? Tyson asked. Because he'll only answer the Cyclops. Ares rolled his eyes behind his frames. He's a natural craftsman, said Hephaestus with a bit of a smile to the Cyclops, as much as he could manage. Really now? Outside of the box sort of thinker, one Apollo could be if he turned off the radio and parked his chariot every now and then. Hey! What? The smith god said, it's true. Apollo pouted as Artemis laughed quietly. Would have been proud to have a kid like that, too bad he can't work for shit, though. Like his father in that area, more theoretical than practical. Apollo pouted further with crossed arms, he could pull off practical. Just ask all his kids' mothers. But he's got all those cha-cha attacks, said Percy, recalling the spiraling sphere that nearly tore Atlas apart. Best move ever. Ares praised, he loved that thing. It was sweet. That's practical, right? Chakra, Percy, said Annabeth. Honestly, it's been said a lot already. Annabeth mock scolded him. Sorry. But Percy didn't really sound it. The teen shrugged the correction off. That's different, said Hephaestus. That's fighting. I don't do fighting. I can, but I usually don't. I arm the fighters. Who do you think made Ares' sword? Or Apollo and Artemis bows? Said siblings smiled at their weapons and symbols. When it comes down to it, I'm the reason why most of my family can still fight. Damn right, he said, looking at each of the gods with a stern eye. Some tried not to pay him any mind. Did they thank me? No. Leo frowned at this while his father grunted, like he was used to it. I'm just the smith god, I'm required to make the weapons. In the job description. Snuff off, Ares. The Lord of the Forges said in a steel tone. Don't wanna. Was the childish retort. Granted, I do enjoy a challenge, but being asked to polish a shield? A spearhead? Restring a bow? Without, thanks, mind you. The gods shifted a bit at that as the demigods looked at them with disbelief on their faces. I tolerate my family because of my position and because occasionally I do get a good challenge every 100 years or so. That's good? Leo said, unsure what to feel for his father's life. It sounded kinda sad if he was honest. Naruto polite, said Tyson, recalling getting thanked on multiple occasions by the blonde after he got some more of those small throwing knives he liked getting made. Poseidon smiled, he liked the blonde more and more now. Tyson enjoyed the tedious creations, too. He thought it was a good way to start off the day before getting into his more creative constructs, like a shield for Percy. Which you always destroy. Annabeth pointed out as Percy flushed. Not my fault. Should learn to make them sturdier. The smith god said, less light so to have the watch design. He critiqued. Hephaestus grunted begrudgingly, all right, yes. Nat is pretty grateful, and the smith god liked the boy all the more now. But that's more than anyone else can say. True, the god said, looking at his ungrateful family, who had either stony faces or sheepish-looking ones. You three are being polite because of what I am, not because of who I am. My biggest issue. The fire god said, as some of the demigods felt sad for the forge god. Annabeth winced at that being pointed out. He had a point there. Tyson's respect came from his inner smith looking up to an idol, yep. The son of the sea nodded. But hers was purely focusing on Hephaestus' status as an Olympian. Annabeth winced at the reminder. She should probably rethink her strategy on dealing with him. This wasn't like dealing with most gods. Damn right, I don't act all fancy and BS like that, he said as the others glared at him for that. They preferred to act properly towards demigods, excuse them. Bottom line is, all you can trust is the product of your own hands, said Hephaestus, gesturing around to his workshop. Leo's frown deepened, that was a messed up way to live life. And as a god? That was even harsher. Nico shook his head and Hephaestus arched a brow. You disagree? Well, hanging with Naruto, yeah, he would. Percy smirked to the boy. Nico's face twisted a bit, kinda jealous if he was being honest, at his other. Yes, but trusting others is how you stay strong, said Nico. Hestia beamed at that while Nico frowned. He never had that outlook at that age. He still kind of didn't. He remembered how Kushina would force him and Bianca to spar against her together, making them learn how to fight in tandem. So that's why he was syncing so well with Percy, Annabeth said, really wanting to see this woman soon. The others were following her line of thought. You had to trust your life to someone else every now and then, otherwise you'd never win, be it family or a friend. Strong and wise words, Hestia said in a soft tone, practically glowing with happiness at that line. And from a child of her darker brother, it was a sight to behold. Your sword is Stygian, isn't it? Hades' child, aren't you? Hephaestus asked, his brow furrowing. Nico nodded and Hephaestus looked around. Wasn't it Nat's job to guard you? Yes, it was, Hades said blandly. Then again, Nico left of his own violation. Still, he wished the boy hadn't. His others still had both of his children, he should keep a better eye on them. He's busy, said Nico, making Annabeth and Percy's brows furrow. Searching for the cure. Apollo smiled. That you could not do. Ouch, Athena. Ouch. I try. He crossed his arms over his chest. I can take care of myself. Damn right. Nico nodded with a grin, even more so with proper training. Sure you can, lad, said Hephaestus, that felt a tad sarcastic, Nico noted with a frown. Stopping his search for his nephew. You'd think you'd have noticed him by now, Ares said mockingly. Well, he is a ninja. TCH. The smith smirked at his tiny victory. Every one of them was worth it. His gaze went to Percy, who was glowering slightly as he recalled his first quest with Annabeth and Grover. Well, you shouldn't have been duped, was the god's retort. Percy brooded at that while Ares chuckled loudly. You have something to say as well? Ooh, going to nut up or shut up, Jackson? Percy just gave the war god this look and said, Cupid statues. The gods laughed at the war god now as he simmered at the hero of Olympus. Damn bratty upstart. Only what we asked before, said Percy. We need to find Daedalus. There's this guy, Luke. He's working for Crow, do not say his name here, boy. Ooh, scared Hef? Ares mocked. I didn't want him to know where one of my places were. That shop totally got thrashed after the crooked ass woke up in this dimension. Aha, sure. Was the disbelieving retort of the war god. The crooked one, said Percy. We need to find Daedalus before he does cut off, twice, Hermes said with a zing noise and a grin. I already told you that it's a waste of time, Daedalus won't help you. True, at first, Percy said as the fire god shrugged. Why not? Some of us get thrown off mountains, said Hephaestus, gesturing to his head. And you did. Magnificently. Hephaestus glared at his full-blooded brother with fire eyes, no commentary needed, thank you very much. Some of us learn in more, painful methods. Ask me for gold, that's my shtick I believe, nephew. The god of riches said smoothly. The forge god shrugged, I know where to get ores. Was the retort. A sword or even arrows and I'll grant you them easy, he snapped his fingers. Like that. But a way to Daedalus? That's an expensive favor. And they always are, Percy sighed out, getting Annabeth to look at him sternly. Stupid volcano. So you do know where he is, said Annabeth. It's not wise to go looking for someone who doesn't wish to be found, girl. True, you never know what they might do. Hades mused with dark humor. My mother says that looking is the nature of wisdom, said Mother beamed at that while Poseidon rolled his eyes. And who would your mother be? Really? I don't look at them by physical features, so no, I didn't think she was yours. The smith told his wise sister. Athena. Hephaestus snorted. Figures. Athena glared at him for that, but the forge god paid her no mind. He sighed. Fine goddess, Athena. Shame she pledged to never marry. Got the short end in that deal. Hephaestus grunted out as his wife rolled her eyes. He was silent for a moment before shaking his head and looking at the daughter of Athena. All right, half-blood. I'll give you a way to Daedalus, but you need to do me something. Something big. By big, he means something boom-worthy. Hermes snickered. Zeus glared at his nephew for releasing that blasted monster. Percy just kept his eyes straight at the screen. Well, that was a good chapter, Apollo said with a clap of his hands and a wide grin. On to the next. 20 so, that sucks, said Nico as he, Annabeth and Percy continued down their chosen path to Hephaestus' favored workshop at Mount St. Helens. Zeus rubbed his face. Why were you allowed a forge there to begin with? You said I could have it. The God King just groaned at this as his siblings got a quick laugh out of it. They once again followed the quick and nimble little metal spider, much to Annabeth's dismay, but it hit a crossroads with a tunnel that looked like an entryway to a fairy tale. Percy smirked at this. Grover and Tyson had split off, Grover smelling something that told him Pan was in the tunnel's direction. Hermes smiled. Finally. And Tyson, wanting to prove Hephaestus wrong about trusting, went with him. The smith just grunted at this, which made Leo frown a little. Shut up, Nico. Annabeth had never been more distraught. She had let the two split off for the group while trying to stay true to her plan. Keeping her group together was the largest part of that plan. And down there, that was a big issue. Annabeth nodded to her other without any heroics. That was hard to keep Percy from doing. She noted, well, duh. Drawled everyone, much to Percy's chagrin. She'd be among the few to bring back a fully intact group from a quest. Percy and Naruto were both on that list. Seriously? Percy blinked as Annabeth gave him a dull glare. Yes. But we know it was really luck on his first one, right? Nico pointed out. Shut up, corpse breath. Nico just smiled widely. And, no offense to her friend or brother, they were both kind of idiots. Hurtful. Percy looked at his girlfriend with a pout. Annabeth just gave him a sheepish smile. Sorry. If they could manage it, so could she, or so she thought. That must suck, Nico said, getting a stormy glare from the girl. We're losing the spider, let's go, said Percy, trying to shake Annabeth from her depressing thoughts. They continued to run, Annabeth stumbling as her mind continued to race miles ahead of her, dashing to different strands of thoughts in the only way a child of Athena could. So many subsections, Percy teased lightly, getting her girlfriend to turn pink in her cheeks. Oh, be quiet, she mumbled, but Percy just gave her a half hug. These were costing them time and Nico turned to look at her, catching sight of her unease. Percy didn't notice first? For shame. Shut up, hunter girl. The raven-haired boy frowned. Hey, are you all right? Nico asked. Annabeth. That certainly snapped her from her thoughts and she responded with a distracted what? Annabeth Chase? Percy questioned to Talia. Distracted? The hunter continued with a smile. Ha. Ha, Annabeth said with a mock laugh and crossed her arms. She was a thinker, it happened. You're distracted, said Nico. And he points out the obvious, well, the obvious that Percy failed to notice. Stupid Girl Scout. Percy muttered. Girl what? Talia glowered, hearing him. Percy just gave her a mocking smile and said no more. The spider seemed to have slowed down a bit, it was staying in sight for once, relieving the demigods greatly from their run. For the plot, of course. Apollo nodded. Sorry, said Annabeth. She was still a bit distracted. Just thinking about the prophecy. Yeah, that was a scary one for me. Annabeth admitted with no shame. I know. Percy nodded, giving her a half hug in assurance. What part of it? Percy asked as they continued to follow the small spider. He had been focused on a part of the prophecy himself during his first quest, the part about his mother. Like you wouldn't believe, Percy sighed out. Annabeth just rubbed his shoulder comfortingly. The last line, said Annabeth, her face twisted into a frown as she continued to think about it. Drama tilde, Aphrodite said in glee, on the edge of her throne. And lose a love to a fate worse than death. Percy thought, the people who knew him, sighed out for Luke, such a terrible fate indeed. A small unpleasant pain forming in his chest. Of course he would. Talia smirked at him, getting the water boy to frown at her. Shut up. He muttered, it was a tough time for him, okay? That Luke guy, right? Nico asked. Ooh, go Nico, bring in the cause. Aphrodite smiled, let's see the effect. And Naruto, said Annabeth, distracted. You could hear a pin drop. It was broken by Aphrodite, who was squealing in glee as eyes turned to the now fire-red Annabeth. What? She sputtered out. Oh, this is going to be amazing tilde. The love goddess grinned wildly. She slapped a hand over her mouth while the two dark-haired boys came to a dead stop in surprise. And she tries to cover it up. Annabeth, dear, just admit those feelings. Please stop talking. The blonde begged the love goddess. That smile told her otherwise sadly. Stopping herself, Annabeth quickly turned to the two boys with pink cheeks. I mean he's my brother, right? I'm just worried about him on his quest. Sure. Drawled everyone as Percy went to brooding level 11. You have a crush on him, don't you? Nico asked. The Lady of Doves turned to the Son of Death. Nico D'Angelo, I could kiss you. Please don't. The 14-year-old said with discomfort. In childlike innocence that she forgot he had. Where did that go, anyway? Percy asked jokingly. Shut up. Now. Since he was still 11 but acted so much older since his return from the underworld. The place tends to do that. Nico pointed out. Annabeth's cheeks turned a bit darker, it's true. Annabeth just wanted to die right now, damn love goddess. And Percy felt as though he had been sucker punched in the gut. I think it might be a bit lower. Ares snickered out as Percy glared heatedly at him. Got something to say to the class, Jackson? Percy turned forward, not giving the war god the satisfaction of his reaction. But still, this was getting even more complicated for his other hero's peril, indeed. No, said Annabeth, her face burning as she denied it. Oh, she reacts so readily, Hazel said in amusement. Shut up, Hazel. He's my brother and I care about him, okay? Sibling love counts. Sibling love does count, we've all done it, Poseidon said as the gods turned their heads away as the demigods blanched a little. Nico thought she was just making up excuses. Wow, even Nico is calling you out on it. Shut up, Talia. But shrugged it off. She had a point, he loved Bianca and was worried about her. Boo. The love goddess pouted, the boy was on a roll. Plus, he was 11. What does he know about this stuff? Double boo. Oh, grow up, Aphrodite. I have, unlike you, little Miss Huntress. Artemis glared at her strongly for that. Percy, however, didn't know what to think except that he wasn't exactly a fan of Naruto at the moment. Understatement. Really? Percy, this is another dimension. It's the principle of the matter. The son of the retorted to Frank, rather strongly in fact. Annabeth had a crush on Luke and Naruto? It's the blonde hair. Apollo smiled. No, those blue eyes. Hermes added with a chuckle. Or both. Aphrodite smirked, blondes were all the rage right now, after all. Annabeth just hid her face in her palms, trying to not show anyone how red it was. It was like he had no chance. Not true. Percy argued, he so had a chance, a very good chance. Don't let that blonde pretty boy beat you. He sighed softly, Aphrodite did say his love life was going to be complicated because she liked him and I still do. Thanks. Was Percy's dry retort. Oh no, no thanks needed, so maybe this was what she meant, not getting Annabeth to like him like he did her. Oh, so he knows about his feelings for you. The love goddess gushed with her hands on her cheeks in glee, yet says nothing, the drama tilde. Artemis groaned, couldn't no one shut her up? Well, there was that old saying there's other fish in the sea. Poseidon smiled a little at the phrase, but still frowned at how his son was giving up so soon. Percy was too. Didn't mean it didn't cut deep, though. Right in the gut, or the crotch? Fuck you, Ares. Perseus Jackson. Hestia frowned strongly at the boy. Sorry, Aunt Hestia. Hestia turned to Ares, giving him a warning glare. The war god sighed and nodded, getting the goddess of the hearth to smile as she continued reading. So, anyway, said Annabeth, eager to change the subject, no doubt. Talia. Annabeth whined at her friend with a pout. The hunter just smirked, this was too good not to rag on her. Nico. I don't want to say this but whoa, hold your horses, said Nico to the older girl. If you even think about telling me to leave I'm going to say one thing, Sphinx. Without me, you'd never have killed it. So true. The boy smirked as the blonde pouted at this fact. I wasn't going to ask you to leave, she said. Annabeth begrudgingly acknowledged that fact. Amazing, Poseidon said in mock awe, getting Athena to glare at him. Though it irked her a bit. No doubt on that, such hubris. Nico mocked, just a bit. Shut up, zombie boy. Bra Ains. She shook it off as best she could and recomposed herself. Must be hard. I hate you, McLean. Aw, but I love you, Annabeth, Piper chuckled lightly. What I was going to say was that I want you to go ahead and get a peek at what the spider is going to deal with. You really have a handle on that, the boy's father commented on, some pride in his tone as Nico smiled at that. Oh. Well, sure, yeah. Give me a few minutes, said Nico before he turned and walked into the shadows, melding with them and vanishing from view. Okay, that's cool, said Percy with a bit of jealousy in his tone. Wish I could teleport. Can't always get what you want. Apollo sang out, but stopped after getting a slap to the arm by his sister. Yeah, but we've got to work with what we've got, said Annabeth. Come on, we should at least keep walking so that we don't fall too far behind Nico and the machine. Poseidon snickered a little, at least call it what it is. A machine, Annabeth said firmly, getting a few laughs as she pouted at being mocked at. Stupid spiders. Stupid fear. Percy smiled lightly at the choice of her words, finding a bit of amusement in it. Annabeth looked at her boyfriend, betrayed. It is a little funny. He pointed out. Annabeth snuggled into his side. You're lucky you're cute. Percy smirked at that. Yeah, he knew that. They continued to walk, Percy content with the silence and it just being the two of them. Of course he is. The Lady of Doves cooed. Well, content was a bit of a stretch. He was okay with it, but he also wanted to ask Annabeth if she really did have a crush on Naruto. Hermes winced. Yeah, that was awkward for sure. It was one of those questions he wanted to know the answer to and yet didn't. The best kind. Aphrodite assured the boy. Listen Percy, thanks, said Annabeth, breaking the silence. Thanks for sticking with me through all this, it means a lot. Yes, moment time. Percy smiled at Annabeth, who gave one back. Hey, I told you earlier that it wasn't a problem, said Percy, relieved that she started the conversation. No doubt. Shut up Leo. We don't know what we're doing half the time and we turn out fine. True, Athena said with a pensive look, she didn't like her daughter just bumbling around with only luck saving her at times. It was a terrible way to quest. Annabeth smiled at him and he grinned back. Percy had already forgotten about the earlier conversation and Annabeth, well, she was thinking about how Percy was a good friend. Or something more. The Lady of Love smirked, oh this drama was so delicious. She began to open her mouth to say something, but it was lost as Nico reappeared in front of them with a swirl of darkness. Damn it Nico, Percy shouted at the boy. Nico just smirked at him. I try, really, I do. He answered as Percy fumed at the lose moment. Hey, I found the forge, Nico said while the two demigods jumped where they stood. Like grasshoppers. Shut up Leo. The couple told the boy as one. That was freaky. The fire user said. You get used to it. Nico waved him off. He grinned at their glares. What? Did I scare you? No/yes. The couple and Nico said together. Now that is really weird. Leo muttered to himself. No, said Percy, who was a bit miffed that the moment was ruined. Little jerk. I revel in your hate, Percy. Nico smirked at him. That and his heart was racing about 10 times faster than before. So I did scare you. Stupid cousin. The son of the sea muttered. Can you lead us there? Annabeth asked. Sure thing, said Nico with a nod. Found a good shortcut. You certainly got used to that shadow travel fast, said Annabeth. Why thank you. Nico smiled at the praise. I was talking to younger, non-emo you, Nico. Still me though. Nico grinned sheepishly. Well, don't tell my dad but I had a little bit of help. From who? Hades asked and Nico shrugged. Maybe Mitos? He suggested with a look of distaste. I would certainly hope not. The god murmured, honestly, to try and use his child. The nerve. Bianca was so good at swordplay that, I wanted to impress him too. So, Bianca is even better with a sword than the other you? Percy blinked in surprise. Wow. Maybe she's even better than you. Nico pointed out with an amused look. Percy looked like he disagreed completely. That's understandable, said Annabeth with a nod. Percy just shrugged in agreement. He didn't know what it was like to be the younger sibling. True, you don't, Annabeth said, we have to prove our worth at times. It's frustrating. I feel for you. Nico nodded, taking a glance at his father. Not counting Naruto's teasing and her training. The thought of the whiskered blonde made Percy frown a bit, before shunting those feelings aside. You'll just have to deal with them later. Aphrodite commented coyly. Percy ran a hand through his hair. Great, just great. Unfortunately, he'd have a bit of a problem with forgetting Annabeth's comment because of Nico's next question. Damn it, Nico. The boy just snickered. So what do you think Naruto's doing right now? He asked. Probably driving Talia up the wall, said Annabeth with a smirk. Hey. All's fair in this game, Talia, learn to deal with it. The blonde said with cheek. Talia clicked her tongue, and she was finally off the radar for teasing. Seems she was a blip again. That thought did make Percy smile and he did wonder what was going on with his hot-tempered cousin. Screw you, wethead. Her cousin just smiled that stupid smile of his at her. Stupid water boy. I'm going to kill him, said Talia. She was now dressed in another set of clothes, dark and a bit form-fitting, save for her leather jacket. Always with the dark shades. Aphrodite frowned. I like them. Talia argued. I know I do, Leo said, liking the form-fitting part. Dude. Jason told him. What? Leo asked, not seeing a problem with what he said. Jason just sighed. Piper, likewise, had changed into a pair of jeans and a t-shirt of her own, both of them looking at the younger Grace as he explained how he lost Naruto. Jason, Talia scolded. What? I'm not his keeper. He was injured, and you still lost him. The hunter explained blandly. I'm sure I have a perfectly good reason, Jason said in a weak tone. After they had a good laugh at Jason's expense, still mad about that, Jason pouted, but Piper just pinched his cheek teasingly. The girls asked the whiskered blonde if they could have their clothes back, which he obliged to by unsealing their stuff. Thank the gods for that, the two girls said. Talia then shoved the two blondes out of the room before another word could be said. It was then that Naruto got bored. Oh no. Artemis grimaced as Apollo beamed. Well, more than usual. And when Naruto gets bored, well, he had to do something. So with a quick be right back to Jason, he was off. Oh, you actually fell for that? Piper asked with a giggle. Jason turned red. Shut up. He muttered weakly, looking away from the amused looks he was getting from everyone. And now Jason was left dealing with his annoyed sister. Annoying, am I? Well, which said annoyed sister glared at him for announcing that fact. Jason, buddy, good work, Percy said with a thumbs up as Nico gave his own. Shut it, you two. Percy and Nico looked at one another and looked back to the lightning girl. Nah. The hunter fumed at that. So he just walked off? Talia asked. For 30 minutes? Really? Jason. Was the pitying voice of his sister at his naivety. The wind boy just grumbled. Yeah, I thought he had to use the bathroom, said Jason, as she and Piper looked to him for a reason why he was sitting alone in the hallway. Wow, plumbing problems? Ares asked with a laugh. Seems so. Hermes snickered. He thought about what he said after his sister arched her brow. Well, after 10 minutes went past I figured that wasn't the case and he was just wandering. Okay, redeeming points to you for that fly boy. Hermes nodded to his half-brother. Thank you. He'll be back and I figured why should I make you worry about me when I can sit and wait? That was well devised. Apollo nodded while rubbing his chin. Slick, good one. Hermes nodded too. Jason smirked at that one. You're so lucky you're my brother that I haven't seen in years or I'd pound you for letting him wander off, said Talia in response to his well thought out explanation. Even Talia agrees, and she let you off. Good one, Jay. Leo snickered as the hunter pouted. Darn, and she wanted to reinforce her sister privileges to pound him for doing something dumb. Oh well, maybe next time. Her boyfriend on the other hand. Gods, it was like he was a child at times, all Apollo. Arte. And a kitten at others, curious to explore the world and unable to sit still. He's such a tomcat. Aphrodite mused with a smirk as Apollo laughed at that one. Talia groaned and rubbed her face with her hands. When I find that idiot you'll kiss him. Annie. Turnabout is fair play. Apollo snickered, one of the best lines ever, he said with pride. He didn't escape again, did he? Asked the head of the ward, Shizune, as she walked back to the group. They make it sound like he's a convict. Ares pointed out with mirth. She looked haggard compared to the previous day, her hair a bit out of place. Aw, and not the good kind of ruffled. Aphrodite pouted. Or the nurse lucky hour. Apollo added with a grin, getting Aphrodite to beam at that. Pigs. Artemis muttered under her breath. Damn it. First injuries from the attack yesterday finished piling in and overflowing the ER, now I have to find Naruto in the hospital, Shizune sighed angrily. So this is a recurring theme? Percy asked with a laugh. Seems so, Hazel smirked. It's like he's 12 all over again. Why do you have to find him? Piper asked. The serum is done, and the mortal does what you couldn't, Ares laughed at his medical brother, who was looking red in the face. Shut up, you uncultured idiot. He mocked back. But Tsunade and the other cage want to talk to him one more time before he leaves, said Shizune. Try and force him into joining them, no doubt with the cure on the line. Athena calculated as she usually did. Poseidon rolled his eyes, not all of them are that bad. Really? Have you seen what they've done so far to return him to this place by force? The sea god said nothing and Athena smirked at that, thought so. Talia's eyes narrowed. About what? I don't know, but it's very important, said Shizune, looking perturbed at the comment. The fact she wasn't clued into the reason why was very concerning to her. I think she's just the nosy secretary type. Demeter commented. With another groan, she entered the room Naruto was supposed to be in, hung her clipboard on the rail, and then walked back out to them. Well, let's go find him. I highly doubt you'd like it if he was taken off without you. This is true, it would make him a bad boyfriend. Aphrodite nodded, but paused, or he could be visiting an old flame. Talia glared at her for that. You're all right, Shizune. Shitsune. Really? Percy asked Talia, you mispronounce her name? Shut up, Japanese names are weird. Only to our culture, Talia. The god of the arts corrected. Sorry. It's all right, Talia. Ha, payback. Shut up, wethead, or it's voltage time. Ooh, scary. Was the mocking retort. Talia. My mistake. Piper rolled her eyes and whispered to the confused Jason. I don't think they like each other. What was the first clue? Annabeth said in a dry tone, but still found it humorous. Why? He asked, eyebrows furrowed in thought. The demigods and gods snickered at the currently flushed Jason's cluelessness. After giving him a look, Piper glanced up at the ceiling as they walked down the halls. Boys. I hear you. Oh, be quiet, Artemis. Aphrodite glared. What? Nothing, Jason. Nothing. They were quiet after that, the tense mispronunciation of names behind them as they walked through the hallways of the hospital. I don't think someone likes you, said Leo in an effort to tease the hunter. Talia huffed at that, like she cared what some woman thought of her. They checked Naruto's original hiding spots within the hospital. He has his own hiding spot? Percy said in disbelief. Amazing how he hates that place, Artemis teased her brother, who was pouting. Apparently he wasn't a fan of vaccinations, starting with the kitchen, which was a bust, then the bathroom, and then looking up in the children's area where he would entertain kids aspiring to be ninja whose parents were sick or recovering. That's sweet, slow brainwashing to join the Corps. Ares grinned. Artemis rolled her eyes. Of course you would say that. Yep. Isn't she lovely? The three demigods and medics stopped as they heard the soft, yet appealing voice singing in the distance. Apollo put a hand on his ear. What is this I hear? My son being awesome, of course. As they got closer to the maternity/infantry ward, the silvery low voice got clearer. They found the source of the voice in a room that Shizune told them was for a new mother who had been given a very serious arm wound during the attack. Poor dear. Artemis frowned as Hera held a look of sympathy as well, since she was the goddess of women. Isn't she one/dare/fool? Isn't she precious? Less than a few months old. Oh, of course he would be singing to a new baby. Percy rolled his eyes. Talk about cheesy. I find it sweet. Annabeth told him, getting the boy to grumble. Shizune held a finger to her lips, then gently gripped the door handle, turning it and opening the hospital room of the maternity/infant ward. The group of four found the blonde they were looking for. Or rather, all three copies of him, each one dressed in their hospital scrubs and tank top. His own chorus, nice. Leo nodded as Apollo was grinning. I never thought, through love you'd be, making one as lovely as she, but isn't she lovely, made from love? Isn't she lovely? Apollo blinked, but smiled afterwards. Nice choice. One sat on the windowsill, an acoustic guitar in hand and strumming the chords gently. Another was playing with rhythm sticks while sitting next to the clone on the guitar. Where did he get all those and don't say seals? Percy argued to Annabeth, seriously, why would he pack them if so? Duh, wethead, to be awesome. Apollo nodded, like that was all that was needed. The school teacher Iruka Umino, who sat on the left side of the pretty brunette mother's bed with his back to the clones, and the third Naruto flanked the bedridden mother, a pink bundle in his arms as he sang softly to it. The women cooed at that. It was adorable and sweet of the boy. The males except for Apollo found it a bit too sugary sweet for them if they were honest. But valued their lives not to say anything about it. Isn't she pretty? Naruto sang, making good on the Stevie Wonder song. Truly the angel's best. Boy, I'm so happy, we have been heaven blessed. I can't believe what the gods have done, through you they've given life to one, but isn't she lovely, made from love? Excellent pitch, and gives off the dreamy vibe to it. So beast. The sun god grinned wildly. Iruka's hand gently wrapped around the woman sitting in the bed, a bandage on her hand. They smiled at each other before looking back at the blonde, ignoring the newcomers. The other Narutos started a chorus in the background. Isn't she lovely? Naruto asked, looking over at the newcomers with a happy grin on his face. He'd make a truly good father. Other Talia is very lucky. Aphrodite chirped with a wide grin as Hunter Talia groaned. Not this again. He looked back at the parents of the child he was holding with the same smile. Life and love are the same, love is Reiko, the meaning of her name. He grinned at the mother. What a fantastic name. The love goddess gushed. Of course you would say that. Artemis rolled her eyes, but she silently agreed, it was a wonderful name for a child. Ame, it could have not been done, without you who conceived the one, that's so very lovely made from love. Melt those hearts, kiddo. Man, I can see him going on tour maybe. The god of music said with a nod. The strumming clone finished with a final chord before Iruka and the mother, Ayame, clapped for him. Naruto stood and bowed lightly, careful to not move the bundle with his bow, before equally gently handing the bundle back, revealing the hidden face of a sleeping infant. Her eyes were closed and her face was a bit chubby, but all the same there was a light glow around her and the dark hair growing from her head. Absolutely precious, Artemis said with the softest of smiles. Naruto signaled for his clones to cut the music, had them seal the instruments back up before tossing the scroll to him and dispelling themselves. Annabeth sent Percy this smug look. Percy threw his hands in the air, it was so pointless to carry them in the first place. That was amazing, Naruto, said Iruka with a wide grin. Thank you. Not a problem, Iruka-sen. Iruka, said Naruto, correcting himself at the man's dry stare. Sorry. Old habits, you know? I still call Electo, Ms. Dodds. Percy admitted. I know, Hades told him, she hated that name. Don't change too much, Naruto, said Ayame, a sweet smile on her face. She reached out and patted him on the knee. Can't have my dad's favorite customer becoming a stranger. 'Cause 7 years doesn't turn you into a stranger. Hazel nodded in assurance. Naruto laughed guiltily at that one. Yeah, don't want that. Are we interrupting? Shizune asked. Yes, Shu. Apollo mocked. Iruka looked over at the group with a bit of surprise. Oh, sorry. No, by all means come in, come in. Not that it mattered since they were practically in the room already. Talia, Jason and Piper went to Naruto's side of the bed, where Piper failed to resist the urge to coo at the 2-month-old baby sleeping in Ayame's arms. Everyone's a sucker for a baby, you can't resist the urge to coo at it, Piper said, feeling the need to defend herself. Talia only did it because she had managed to build up resistance to all things cute. Please, Aphrodite rolled her eyes while Artemis looked curious about this. Unless they had whiskers, like her boyfriend. Annie. Like a kitten. Aw, so you like pussy? Ares jeered with a grin as the females all glared at him. The men almost felt sorry for him, but that was Ares, god of morons. It was a bit of a weak spot for her. Not that anyone really knew it except Naruto. She made him swear on the sticks to keep his mouth shut when she played with Ranger when the large cat was a kitten. Wow, the sticks? Seriously? Percy asked his cousin in a dry tone. Duh, Rep, Talia said as if it was the most obvious thing in the world. I wasn't aware you spoke English, Ayame-san, said Shizune to the mother, who smiled at her sheepish husband. Well, someone was having problems with it and I was a better student than he ever was, even if it was a civilian school, said Ayame. She smiled down at Reiko. I think I'm going to have the first bilingual baby in the village, aren't I, Reiko-chan? My little angelic gift from the heavens. So that's the girl's name translated. Hera mused, it was a sweet name. Actually, her name means lovely child, hence why Naruto changed the lyrics from Life is Aisha to Love is Reiko, said Apollo. Still a sweet name, said Hera after a moment. Helps that English feels right coming off of the tongue, said Naruto with a grin. He stood and gestured to his group. Iruka-sen. Iruka already knows them, but I figure it wouldn't hurt to introduce you to my group. He gestured Ayame as she cradled her baby. Guys, this is Ayame Umino, my favorite waitress. Ayame lightly swatted at him so he had a usual spot. Ha, Leo said, whatever for? Ramen. The demigods deadpanned, they all knew that by now. While the kids snickered along with a chuckling Iruka, this is Piper, a daughter of a guy who, works for my dad. Understatement. The daughter of love said as her mother smiled along with the sun god. Hi. Piper smiled and moved closer to get a look at the baby. She cooed at the sleeping Reiko. She could see where Reiko got some of her father, particularly the nose and skin tone, and some of her mother, particularly Ayame's face. She's going to be a cutie when she gets older, Aphrodite said as Artemis rolled her eyes. Nice to meet you, Piper, said Ayame with a smile. Naruto continued, putting a hand on Jason's shoulder. My friend Jason, he helped me fit in after I had an accident or, death, to be more precise, Hades said dryly, as death was always an accident nowadays. In one of the states and I helped loosen him up a bit. The demigod snickered at Jason, who frowned. He didn't need help, he could totally be loose. He just chose not to is all. Jason rolled his eyes and nodded with a small smile. Nice to meet you. The pleasure is mine, said Ayame with a smile. And last but certainly not least, my girlfriend Talia, said Naruto as he stood behind Talia and rested his arms over her shoulders in a loose hug while his chin rested on her head. I should still be mad at him, Talia pouted. But, you can't, he's too cute for you too. Piper smirked and the hunter glared at her for the remark. He was too happy at the moment to sense Talia's annoyance that was directed at him. Can't blame him. Annabeth smirked and Talia, begrudgingly, agreed. Thankfully, she had managed to push it aside for later to smile at the relatively new mother. Aw, that's sweet of you. Shut up, McLean. Hello, said Talia curtly but kindly. Ayame's eyes narrowed just a margin. So you're Talia, hmm? Another figure in his life that's going to judge you, Hazel said with an amused look. Joy, was the dry retort. Yes? Talia said, taken aback by the sudden change in the mother's voice. She should be, Hera said. Zeus groaned slightly at the gleeful look in his wife's eyes. Ayame looked her up and down, scrutinizing her with a frown on her face. Hera gave a small laugh as Talia's neck hackled at her stepmother's laugh. Before shrugging. Hera frowned, Talia smirked. I guess you'll have to do as a godmother. What? Talia said, jaw hanging open. I don't see it. Shut up, corpse breath. As a what now? Talia asked. I'm shocked she was even considered. Hera muttered aloud, getting Talia to grit her teeth and Jason to sigh. Why couldn't they be civil? Godmother, said Ayame with a smile. Naruto-kun was so kind as to accept his position as Reiko-chan's godfather. Aw, and who wouldn't want to be the godparent of such a cutie? The love goddess cooed affectionately. The three looked at the sheepishly smiling Naruto. What? Godfather? You? Jason asked. Ouch, Percy winced and turned to the blonde. Hurtful much? He does seem kind of irresponsible at times. Jason defended himself and his other. Once again, from Apollo. Hermes, bro, why? It's funny. Yeah, so what? Naruto said. He may not have had the best godfather/teacher in the world, but that didn't mean he'd be as bad. Hell, he already gave Reiko a blessing from Helios to be open-minded and long-sighted. We never do that anymore. Apollo pouted. Unless it's our own children. Demeter told him. I meant for mortals. Ah, this is true. Nothing, just, hard to believe, said Jason. You're only 20. 23, said Naruto with a small frown. Can't help he looks younger, mama gives good genes. Apollo bragged jovially. In October, said Iruka. How is it we managed to have the same months as the rest of the world? Naruto asked him. That is true, one would expect them to make their own. Athena nodded. Traders most likely, said Iruka with a smile. We grew greatly from outside trade. Ah, the truth of any land. Hermes nodded knowingly. Don't change the subject, Whiskers, said Talia with a bit of a frown as she slipped out of Naruto's arms. Aw, why'd you do that, Talia? Because, I felt like it no doubt. The hunter told the love goddess. You're going to be a godfather. We live millions of miles away. Not very responsible. Percy nodded. Athena gave a chuckle, seems your son forgot a key element. She told her rival, who frowned at the jab at his son. Yeah, but I can be here in an instant if need be, said Naruto with a grin. I told you I don't need rescuing, Talia-chan. Teleportation Percy. Be jealous. Nico snickered to the pink-faced Percy, who had indeed forgotten about that. You need restraint and someone to keep you chained down a bit to the ground, said Ayame with a light laugh. True, Artemis nodded and gave her brother a sly look, if only this Kushina woman was around long before. She commented. Ouch, Arte, ouch. Shot through the heart. And you're to blame. Leo sang out, you give love a bad name. Aphrodite was all smiles at that while Hermes and Apollo were giving Leo thumbs up. Artemis on the other hand was frowning, more like pouting. She smiled at Talia. You seem to do that very well. Yeah, Talia's got him on a nice leash. Piper nodded, like Annabeth does to Percy. Hey, said Boy protested. Annabeth gave him a raised eyebrow. Percy's shoulders slumped. Everyone but Percy, even his father, laughed. You know, if you lost the gruff look, you'd be very pretty, Talia. She is right. The love goddess pointed out. Pass, Talia said dryly. Pass, said Talia dryly. See. Talia smiled with crossed arms, we are so in sync. Like the boy band? No, Talia shouted in terror at Leo's comment. Naruto grinned at her. I dunno, I think Ayame may be onto something, said Naruto with a smirk. You should wear a dress for him or something, the Lady of Doves pointed out critically. Really? Talia crossed her arms and gave a challenging look to her boyfriend. Not wearing a dress. Talia muttered with a frown. Ha. Yeah right. I also think you're pretty the way you are, said Naruto, leaning into her face with his hands behind his back. So either way, I win. Got to remember that one, Leo muttered, this guy was a natural. Like yours truly, of course. Smooth, said Piper with a giggle while Jason chuckled a bit. Well, if a daughter of love agrees, Hazel said with a smirk, getting Piper to roll her eyes. Naruto grinned at the younger kids. Don't encourage him, Piper, said Talia with a roll of her eyes. Yeah, Piper, Talia snickered. The love child rolled her eyes. We know you love it. Shut up. The hunter mumbled with a pout. Piper nodded. Why can't you be that well behaved? Because I don't feel like it, Talia, deal with it. Aphrodite smirked at Artemis, who glared at her in return. And Naruto pouted, standing back upright as he did. He turned to the snickering Shizune, whom he almost forgot to address in the room. She is somewhat forgettable. Demeter muttered quietly. So, what's the word on the cure? Naruto asked. His question got the woman to pay attention and stop giggling. She recomposed herself and smiled at him sadly, knowing that as soon as she told him he would be gone. Well, at least she cares about him, Apollo said. That's always a plus. It's done, said Shizune. Tsunade-sama finished the cure. A complicated combination of the Nara deer antler, some Hyuga herbs and a couple of medical chakra techniques that she developed for her own personal use. Deer, why deer antlers? Apollo groaned as Artemis looked smug at him. You could have asked, said the assumed goddess. No, thank you. Apollo deadpanned, who knew what favor she would have asked for one of her sacred deer's antlers, let alone enough for a horde of infected. Anything else she used? Naruto asked as his demeanor changed. Could we replicate the cure if need be? So I can add it to one of my books, Apollo said with intrigue. We've already given a sample to the village and our allies' pharmaceutical branches, said Shizune. It's a simple chemical realignment in the post-developmental process, so yes, it may be possible to do that. Wow, ninja doctors work fast. Leo whistled out impressed. Thank the gods, said Naruto with a sigh, earning an intrigued look from Ayame from his words. Iruka rubbed her hand to get her attention and silently told her that he would explain it in a more appropriate manner. Oh, so he explained it to the man, that's good, Demeter said. Naruto, however, just stepped towards the woman with a gleam in his eye. So where is it? Fork it over now, woman, Hades muttered, a dark glint in his eyes. Tsunade-sama will relinquish it to you upon your arrival at the Hokage mansion, said Shizune. She and the other 5 want you there ASAP blast. Hades muttered, the bottom of his fists pounding his armrests. He'll get it, Dad. I know, Hades pursed his lips, I dislike these stalls by the ninja. Trust me, I know. I just can't win with these people, said Naruto with a groan. We know. The males of the underworld said. He rubbed his forehead before returning to the bedridden mother's side. Sorry I couldn't stay longer to catch up, Ayame. Ayame waved him off with a small smile on her face. You have to go off and save another country. She says it like it's some everyday thing for him. Percy muttered. Well, from what we've seen in this ninja continent, then yes, Percy, he probably has. Annabeth told him. Go, but promise me you'll come visit more than your godfather did. And how often was that? Apollo asked, curious. Well, they did say it was bad. Jason reminded him. True. The sun god frowned. Well, I'll do what I can, said Naruto with a grin as he leaned in to give her a hug. Iruka stood up and walked over to stand in front of Naruto. I wasn't sure initially if I gave you the best option to resign, said Iruka. So he was the one to say it? Well, he is in my good books for sure. The father of the demigod smiled brightly. When you came to me for advice, I wasn't sure what I should say. I wanted you to stay in Konoha, but I learned a long time ago that I couldn't protect you forever. You're my friend, my brother, and one of my favorite students. Iruka held his hand out to the blonde, which Naruto quickly took with his own. You're my comrade, and I'll always stand beside you. Now that is a brother in arms. Frank whistled out. True. His father said in a mild tone of impression. Thanks, Iruka, said Naruto before he pulled the older man into a hug. Thank you for everything. Ah, bro hugs, Leo sighed out and turned to Jason. Why do we never bro hug? I don't know? Iruka hugged him back for a second longer before they separated with smiles on their faces. Naruto turned and nodded to Shizune, who smiled lightly before leading him out of the room. Piper and Jason followed him, but Talia was held back by Iruka lightly grabbing her shoulder before she could follow suit. Some advice for the blonde, I think, Hazel said with a look to Talia, who scoffed at her words. Keep him from doing anything too stupid, said Iruka with the look of a concerned father/brother in his eye. I know how he is and how hard it can be, but try. Hermes just looked at his son-brother, amusement in his eyes while Apollo grumbled. The thief smirked, he didn't even need to say it. It's all I can do, said Talia in return with a smirk. Even if it's a pain. Bah, she loves it. Nico waved off with a lazy grin. Shut up, Nico. Never, Iruka chuckled and Ayame giggled at her comment, Reiko making a soft sound as she woke up distracted Talia for a moment. She looked at the small family with a smile as Iruka went back to his wife's side to coo at his daughter. And, click, Apollo said, taking a mental picture. It was just too much of a perfect moment. Why waste it? It was good to know that not everyone from her boyfriend's homeland was insane. Finally. Most of the audience said. She left the 3 members of the Umino family and quickly caught up to her group. So he asked her to marry him, said Naruto, finishing up a story as she caught up to them. We missed how they got together? Aphrodite pouted, oh, she bet it was sweet. Wow, you really need to look into working at Hallmark, said Piper. You brought 2 people together without even being here. Like an agent of fate or something. Ooh, Leo winced, while true, he doesn't like them ladies. Even if they helped him return back to life. Hades pointed out. Please, that was just chance, said Naruto, a bitter look crossing his face at the comment. See? Yes, Leo, Piper said, we see. Cool. What happened? Talia asked her brother quietly. Naruto was just telling us how Iruka and Ayame got together, said Jason with an arched brow. Weren't you listening? She doesn't do that very well. Funny. One would think that was you, Percy. Oh wait. It is. Talia mocked him back with a smile on her maiden face. Percy just stuck his tongue out at her. Not really, said Talia. She wanted to let the topic die, but her curiosity got the best of her. How'd it happen? Apparently Naruto and Iruka would usually get ramen where Ayame worked, and when he went missing Iruka would go there for days in hopes that the blonde would show up. That's sweet of him, Aphrodite said. He and Ayame started to talk, connect, and well, I guess that's how it all got started, said Jason with a shrug. He wasn't paying attention to details much, but it was an interesting story nonetheless. It is, Piper nodded, it was simple and sweet, her kind of story. Piper's onto something with him working at Hallmark, said Talia with a smirk. He's corny enough for it. And he gets it all from me. Apollo bragged. That he's corny? Of course. The sun god told his younger brother. I heard that, Talia-chan. You were supposed to, Whiskers. Ouch, harsh. Leo winced. Not really, said the boyfriends, as the girlfriends grinned. Naruto pouted as he turned around to look at his girlfriend, walking backwards through the hallway. Why are you so mean to me, Talia-chan? Training, duh. Talia smirked. If she was going to ever have a boyfriend, which she wouldn't, she would train him to sit down, shut up and obey. Like Annabeth did to Percy. Percy glared at Nico, who opened his mouth, but closed it a second later. He did not want to hear some lame joke about him being trained by Annabeth. It was really in poor taste by now. Tough love, Naruto. It's tough love, said Talia with a small smirk at him. And it is needed. Arte, Jason chuckled and Piper giggled at the wounded look Naruto gave her. Shizune also giggled as she watched them over her shoulder. She was going to miss Naruto, his antics always brightened the village's day, even if it was a prank. Hermes grinned at that one, pranks always do. As they walked through the hospital, Shizune recalled the first time she and Naruto spoke one-on-one. Trying to convince Naruto to stop going for her master's cursed necklace and the bet they made where Naruto had to preform the initial form of the Rasengan, which took his father 3 years to design, 3 years to make a spiny ball of energy. Ares asked mockingly. Hey, Apollo glared, that was tough to make. You remember the method detailed when he showed Talia during the Valentine special? I do. Athena nodded, most impressive. Thank you. And master and their master Jiraiya no Gama 3 months to get down only cause he had the notes and my instruction no doubt. Apollo muttered with a pout. In 1 week or Tsunade would take all of his money and leave him for broke. In 1 week? Apollo whistled. Hot damn, my kid is good. Yes, we get it. Poseidon rolled his eyes. Oh, you're just jealous he's hogging Percy's spotlight. No. Athena snorted in disbelief and her rival glared at her for it. Naruto beat the odds put against him, having declared that he would break the curse of death that surrounded the necklace Tsunade had given to him, and did the impossible. He managed to preform the initial form of the Rasengan after only 1 week to learn it. An A-rank technique, at age 12. He had to be some sort of genius. Like his father, Apollo smirked. The gods rolled their eyes. Ham. A genius of hard work always surpasses inherited genius, said Tsunade once when they were discussing her former team, known as the Legendary Three. Orochimaru could never beat Jiraiya as he is now alone. That's why it always comes down to the summons coming out. Escape to fight another day, yes, but truly win against the idiot? Not a chance. Jiraiya's a monster. I don't know if I could have beaten him in strength alone. Tsunade took a drink of her sake. I like the sound of this guy. Ares grinned. You would. Athena told him with a scoff. May the idiot rest in peace, and I hope he's giving Orochimaru a hard time down there. Shizune looked at the chuckling Naruto, who had made a comment to the now blushing Jason about finding his own girlfriend soon. I wonder who ow. Leo winced at the slap to his head and pouted, Piper, I was kidding. He whined. Well, don't. The charm speaker huffed. Talia apparently wasn't taking that well from the glare she gave her boyfriend. You know, I never did give you the 12th degree. Talia mused at Piper, who actually started to sweat a bit. Please don't. Well, when you tell me not to. Talia, Jason glared at his now snickering sister. He was certainly like Jiraiya, and Sakura had taken after Tsunade well. In personality maybe, Aphrodite sniffed, no in looks, for certain. She sighed as unfortunately that meant Sasuke was taking the same path Orochimaru had taken, a dark path. Bitch. Apollo jeered. Apollo? Wha? He asked his aunt, who just gave him a fiery glare. And as they are like Jiraiya and Orochimaru, Naruto and Sasuke had a rivalry that destroyed lives and left craters in the planet. Which he ended, until the emo baby decided to be a sucker for power. Nico rolled his eyes, he hated people who thought the world revolved around them. So stupid. She could only hope that where Naruto goes, Sasuke doesn't follow, because if they continued the cycle that Orochimaru and Jiraiya were a part of, these new lands, the Americas, just America honey, wouldn't stand a chance. Not true, said most of the gods. Stupid ignorant mortals. She remembered the first time Naruto returned from their clash at the Valley of the End, battered and broken, a freshly healed lung had ribs penetrating it, he had a cracked skull from a 50-plus drive headfirst into the dirt, his left arm completely shattered and useless, and bruising all over his body. Your boy should have done worse. Ares commented to his brother. Very true, simmered the sun god. And that was when they were 12. Who knows the damage if they both went all out in a populated area. Wow, that's impressive for little kids. Ares whistled. He wanted a chakra kid. They sounded like a riot. Not only that, but the war would go with them as well, since it pretty much was down to that. You were either with the Uchiha or against them, sounds like a bunch of babies. Hades snorted, stupid mortals. And if you were against them, all bets were off. You would be targeted, your world would be rocked, and no one was innocent in Sasuke's eyes. Wow, douchebag much? Nico D'Angelo, Hestia scolded. Sorry Aunt Hestia. The death boy said in a bored tone, but gulped under the glare he got for his half-hearted apology. He was ruthless, deranged and powerful enough to be labeled an S-rank problem at age 16 for killing Orochimaru. Hey, Shizune, you alright? You're zoning out, said Naruto, snapping the woman from her thoughts. They were already approaching the Hokage mansion. She must have been thinking about this longer than she thought. Yes, I'm fine, thank you Naruto, said Shizune with a small smile. No she isn't, with all the inner monologue. The sun god rolled his eyes, but it was good for background he supposed. Naruto grinned back at her, she was among the few that he would miss a lot. If Iruka was his older brother, Shizune was his older sister. Aw. Kakashi was the crazy uncle and Tsunade was the worrying grandmother. Still don't see how that much of a woman is in her 50s. Leo muttered to himself. It says she uses a technique to disguise her true age, said Hestia, arching a brow. A genjutsu. Oh, those mind things, Apollo said. He widened his eyes. Wait, so she's pretty much a really good illusion? Seems that way, said Hestia. He was just glad no one babied him, he got enough of that from his mother. Talk about embarrassing. Sounds like Prissy's mom. Fuck off Ares. Both of you, silence. Yes Aunt Hestia. The god and demigod said as one, but glared at one another for it. Jackass/pussy. Had to be the maternal instincts she unfortunately passed away with. Well, at least now he can just shift her attention onto Nico and Bianca for some of that maternal loving. Nico's face twitched at that. Once again, the group of demigods followed a shinobi up the many steps to Tsunade's office where, once again, they were greeted by the rest of the cage. They were flanked this time by 2 guards each, as though they were worried about being attacked in an allied state. Seriously, a boom and scare. Amateur hour, Ares scoffed at the masked wimp. With a small wave to his group that told them to stay close to the door, Naruto walked forward and stood with his arms crossed over his chest. So where's the cure? He asked, almost demanding. Like a boss. Apollo snickered, getting some from the demigods and more humorous gods. The sooner he got the cure the sooner he could get back to Bianca and the camp to check on his family. He got the strangest feeling that something bad had happened as soon as he left his new goddaughter and her parents. Naruto couldn't put his finger on it, but he was sure that it had something to do with Percy. Percy winced at that as Annabeth glared at him coolly. What happened against Sasuke Uchiha? Tsunade asked in return. Kicked his ass, blinded him and his stupid eye infection, said Naruto. Gave him the perfect cure for it, Apollo mocked with a snigger along with Hermes. You didn't kill him, said E with a scowl. We don't either, Athena said. Much better to give them a punishment, she said, glaring at her rival. The sea god rolled his eyes. Oh, get over it. Stupid owl brain. He turned to one of his bodyguards, though the demigods wondered why he needed them since he was large enough to be able to challenge Ares to an arm wrestle. I'd take that bet, grinned the war god. And said, have the village put on alert and send out the hunters to the Valley of the End. I want this over with by the end of the week. Hi, Raikage-sama, said the man with pale blonde hair and a feminine face. Hey, girly boy, Leo snickered. No, I didn't kill him, said Naruto with a frown. He could hear Q ranting at him from here. Where is that stupid thing? Apollo asked. Probably with Pan perhaps? Artemis speculated. It's a good thing you didn't, said the up until now unusually quiet Helios. That's what makes you better than him. Keep that in mind. Of course it does. Hell, anyone would be better than that piece of slim, Apollo huffed. Now you make me sound like Batman or something, Naruto thought in return. Absolutely nothing wrong with that, Athena said with a curt nod. Fangirl, Apollo said with a grin as the wisdom goddess scowled at him for the remark. He looked at Gaara when the Kazekage made a sound. Something you want to add, Gaara? Do you need assistance? The Kazekage asked. With your new problem, I mean? I'm willing to send squads with you if you need. Such a good guy, Apollo smiled. Really, why can't they all be like that? Naruto blinked, he hadn't seen that coming. Then again, this was Gaara, the god Kazekage who had been born to the Yondaime and raised to hate others and love only himself. Boo, Aphrodite frowned, how horrible. His polar opposite when they were younger. Heck, they were still somewhat opposites now. Naruto had wanted to be Hokage, but Gaara achieved the status of Kazekage at age 15 while Naruto was still a Genin, so a genius and a leader, Athena mused, visibly impressed. Gaara led an entire village and Naruto defended one, and now he was on a council of a near-continental-wide alliance while Naruto resigned from his post. Just goes to show that life loves to throw those curves at you. That's the fates actually. Percy corrected. Naruto shook his head to keep from thinking about that. He smiled at his friend thankfully and at the two bodyguards, Gaara's older siblings Kankuro the poisonous puppeteer who used war paint and Tamari, the high-ranking ambassador to Konoha. Thank you for the offer, Gaara, but I'll have to decline. The battle we face is one that the elemental nations are not ready for. Very true, Athena said. I don't know, they seem like nice backup. Annabeth told her mother. Still, it is our fight, not theirs. Not very wise sounding right now. Hermes told her. Shut up. Just know that Suna stands with you, Naruto, said Gaara with an understanding nod. Konoha stands with you as well, brat, said Tsunade with a crooked grin. She pulled out a vial and tossed it to the blonde, who caught it with ease. Hades and Nico smiled openly at that. He looked at the vial in his hand while Tsunade continued to speak. We have two more things to ask you and then you are free. She used the term loosely as Naruto pocketed the cure with a small smile to leave. No, leave. Now, Hades said with a frown coming upon his face. Oh, let's hear them out. Your child's life isn't on the line. Hades told his middle brother crisply. Sorry. Humph. All right, what do you want to know? Naruto asked. Where is the Kyubi no Kitsune? Aniki, the Tsuchikage, asked. I refuse to believe that you have it hidden somewhere. Die, stupid little troll doll, Apollo spat, not liking the gnome too much. Naruto shrugged. To tell you the truth, I don't know. What? The Kages were all on their feet, save Gaara, simultaneously demanding explanations. He, getting the governing bodies to stand in shock. Another reason he's my kid. We get it, you have an awesome kid, shut up about it already. Hermes rolled his eyes at his older brother. I don't feel like it. Sasuke destroyed my link with it, said Naruto, pointing at his wrist that usually held the gem he had to hold his sword and shield. He dropped his hands and let one slip into his scrubs. The clothes were comfortable and he was fresh as could be thanks to the hospital pocket, fingering the small flashlight that Eclipse disguised itself as. How ironic for a child of yours to have a flashlight, Artemis smiled. Oh, shut up, Arte. Apollo pouted at the remark. It was an awesome sword, no need to diss its hidden form. I mean, Jackson has a pen. Don't seem him as much of a writer. He jibbed. Hey, Percy frowned, Riptide was awesome. Even if he wasn't the most studious demigod around. Calmly, the whiskered blonde continued. Without it, I haven't a clue where the QB could be. I do know that he's most likely out of reach of Madara, and without me they'll probably never find it since I only have hunches. Then tell us where it is so we can use it, said Aniki. Power-hungry mortal, Zeus scoffed and all eyes turned to him, even Talia's. At that statement, oh be silent. He muttered, crossing his arms. He could just hear their mocking thoughts. And risk them getting all 9 of the bijou? You're a stubborn old fool, Aniki Dono, said May with a frown on her pretty face. It sure is. Leo, Piper groaned. What? She glanced slyly at the blonde teenager. Besides, I'm sure Naruto-kun can keep it safe. Cougar. Talia and Artemis said in distaste. Well, you can't blame her, Aphrodite smiled. Sure she isn't one of yours? The goddess of the hunt asked scathingly. While very pretty, yes, I'm sure she isn't mine. A shame really. May Dono, please, said Tsunade with a sigh. The boy's so young to have such important information, said one of May's bodyguards, an old man with one eye. Back in my day we only trusted old and experienced shinobi with important details like that. Bah, old soldier mentality. Diminished in this day and age. Ares waved off. Ow? Yes, Mizukage-sama? Shut up before I melt your balls off, said May sweetly as an aura of death waved off of her. The men wilted at that comment with pained faces and shifts in their seats. Well, Hephaestus didn't. Artemis seemed to be smiling though. Why yes, Mizukage-sama. Naruto took a small step away from the Mizukage. That was one threat he was not going to risk happening to him. Apollo nodded vigorously. Resistant to fire or not, he was not willing to test how resistant he was or risk his package deal either. Yes, Talia hasn't even tried it yet. Aphrodite, Artemis glowered. What? Aphrodite asked innocently. Talia's face surprisingly less red than it should have been. She was getting far too used to this teasing. It seemed every man in the room had the same idea as the male shinobi, no matter their rank, moved slightly away from her. Even Jason took a step back to sanctuary behind Talia and Piper. No worries Jason, I'll protect you, Piper cooed with mirth. Hey, I was prioritizing my important bits, Jason flushed. Of course. Talia nodded, somewhat mockingly in the blonde's opinion. Anyway, said Tsunade, watching all of this with an amused smile on her face. She returned her gaze to Naruto. We've decided that you're far too reliable a resource to let go from one village and have decided to offer you a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. We be making an offer you can't refuse, Apollo said in a perfect Godfather voice. She cleared her throat and all of the cage seemed to straighten up like the previous antics hadn't occurred. Naruto Uzumaki, former Genin of Konohagakure no Sato of Hai no Kuni. The allied shinobi forces are offering you the position of being the first ever Sennin in our alliance. The sage? Apollo asked with a blink of surprise. Well, sure, Pan likes him and he's good with nature stuff, but this sounds like some BS way to keep close ties on him. It is, Athena said. Naruto felt his jaw pop open in shock. What? With this position of Sennin, we grant unlimited travel access in and out of the 5 great villages and other allied shinobi forces domains. We also grant you right to leave for unannounced and unrestricted periods of time provided that you write a debriefing upon your return to one of the 5 great villages. Like I said, BS ways to keep a figurative leash on him, Apollo frowned, let his boy be. Wait a second yes, give him a second to protest, Hazel said with crossed arms, there had to be angle in this for them. There always was in these kinds of situations. Considering your capability to take charge and lead a group as well as we have observed, said Tsunade, ignoring Naruto's words as he gaped at her. Being a quest leader and all that, Annabeth said. Behind her Kakashi gave his student a big thumbs up. Thanks for the support, Percy said dryly. We've also come to agree that this position is an equal jonin status in every village a part of the allied shinobi forces and will allow you, if you so choose, to take and lead squads of the forces into battle. See, trying to get him into their war, Athena said. Nothing wrong with that, the kid's an asset. Of course you would say that, the wisdom goddess mocked her war brother. You bet. Tsunade turned to Kakashi and nodded. The Jonin nodded in return and stepped forward towards the teenager with a horned headband similar to his deceased godfather's with the kanji for shinobi carved into it in his left hand and a white Konohan Jonin flak jacket with the Uzumaki spiral engraved on the back in his right. The ceremonial piece, Leo said in a deep dramatic tone. Apollo sang a holy chorus for added effect. Naruto looked at the offered items and then around the room, waiting for the twist. There has to be one, Annabeth said. Something like this wasn't for free, it just couldn't be. No such thing as a free lunch after all. This was all too good to be true, a way to come and go as he pleased with no questions asked and stopping the shinobi from trying to catch him. Seriously, everyone was waiting for the catch. Well, Naruto? Tsunade said, making him look right at her. Do you accept the status as the first Sennin of the allied shinobi forces? Will I be forced to fight in the war? Naruto asked, looking at the god I'm Hokage. Of course they would do that, Ares said, he would after all. She shook her head. Wait, what? Ares blinked and Athena frowned. Where was the twist? We've already held a vote over who was your superior, so someone is holding the leash. Boo, Apollo said to his wise sister's words. And decided that a vote was the only fair way to decide your inclusion. You resigned for Konoha's previous hassling and concern over you declining this offer solidified leaving your inclusion of our war to you, said Tsunade. I like this offer, Hermes smirked, one war is enough for any kid. Says you. Yes, Hermes told Ares with a look, says me. You have no master, but you represent all of us. Interesting, the weaving goddess said with a pursed lips. If, and this is a big if, said Naruto. Kid, Apollo frowned, don't, please. Too selfless. Annabeth reminded the god of Naruto's fatal flaw. The sun god dimmed at that. If my war is over before yours, I will return to help you. Not because of my duty, or because it is my war, but because it is the right thing to do. With a heavy breath, lame. Ares pouted, stupid way to join a war. Naruto looked back at the items offered to him and chuckled. Now I feel a bit underdressed. Nonsense, Apollo waved off. Agreed. The love goddess nodded. Oh, you're fine, said May with a smile. Talia scowled. With a nervous laugh to the Mizukage's comment, Naruto looked back at Tsunade. I accept. Talia frowned at that, really not liking this. Behind him Talia had a frown on her face. She didn't like this place and didn't want Naruto to have something to really tie him down here. Agreed, the hunter frowned deeper. Reiko was a different story because if something happened to her parents he could always come and get her somehow. She merely crossed her arms with her brows furrowing as Naruto took the offered gear from his old teacher while the Kiges nodded in approval. Talia could tell this was going to make things a lot more difficult later on. For their relationship, yes. Aphrodite nodded happily. One looking into the bathroom mirror, Naruto adjusted the horned headband on his head, his mop of messy spikes being pushed back into a short mane of blonde while two shaggy bangs had framed his face like they did his father and godfather. Well, when you look good. Apollo shrugged with a sly grin. Use what you have, Aphrodite chirped, drinking in the picture of the handsome son of the sun. He had, after Talia persuaded him to let Jason borrow some of his slightly larger clothes, going for the grown-up clothes, Jay? Shut up, Leo. Changed out of his hospital scrubs, tucking those away to wear on a rainy night, into some khaki cargos and another orange shirt with an arrow on it the same shirt? The love goddess questioned. He liked the shirt, sue him, it's a fine one, Artemis said. Of course you would say that, Aphrodite said with a huff. Yes, I would. The huntress said to the Lady of Doves. Wearing his new white flak jacket over it. He looked at his reflection, tilting his head this way and that and comparing himself to the picture of his father that was in the entrance of the Hokage mansion. Really, he looks a great deal like you. The female archer told her twin. Can't help the good gene pool Arte, Apollo said in a smug tone. His face shimmered for a bit before the thinner and whiskerless face of Helios appeared in the reflection with a golden brow arched. And that isn't creepy at all. Leo deadpanned. I think it's funny. Nico pointed out. Of course you would, you like that ghost stuff. Still funny. Helios' sudden arrival in the mirror got a startled yelp from the reincarnated god. Nico snickered, oh, that is just a classic ghost move. What the hell are you doing? Naruto asked the Titan. Trying something new, this whole apparition thing is nice and all but it gets annoying, Helios said. True, Apollo said with a rub of his chin, if I was in his place, I'd be going crazy. He arched a brow again. Mind telling me why you accepted this deal? Yes, enlighten us. Talia frowned, obviously disagreeing. Because it was a good one. He does raise a good point, Athena said, there were really not many loops to be used against him. No really, why did you accept this deal? Naruto frowned. Because maybe I don't want to completely isolate myself from my homeland. True, I miss Canada at times. Frank admitted. We all miss where we were born, Hazel said with a knowing look. Would you leave Greece behind if given the option? Valid point, Hestia said knowingly, as most of the gods did miss Greece. After all, Home is where the heart is. Okay, you've got me there, Helios said begrudgingly. But you know this is a way to keep tabs on you, right? There's that one point, Athena said. Oh, totally, I'm not an idiot. Hermes, Apollo glared. Shut up, he said to the messenger god, who was about to open his mouth. The speedy god just settled with a pout. But I'm strong and these lands respect strength, said Naruto. They'd rather fight with me than against me. Damn right, who wants to mess with my kid? I do. Oh shut up Ares. The sun god rolled his eyes. And to think they haven't seen god mode yet, said Helios with a laugh. Oh, now that is just going to be a treat. Ares snickered, wait till they see that. Alright kid, you've made a choice and you're sticking with it. Though I get the feeling you wanted something like this to happen. Naruto just smiled a bit at that. I did promise Jiraiya to bring peace to these lands. Ares snorted and crossed his massive arms. Peace? That's BS right there. Plus he'd be out of a job if something like that happened. A soldier as strong as you working for all five, they'd have no choice but to cooperate since not one can control you. You're a shrewd one, Naruto Uzumaki. That he is, one has to wonder if he planned that out from the start. The wisdom goddess pointed out. Bah, stupid piece. Ares muttered, grumbling as he did so. I try, Naruto chuckled as Helios' appearance vanished back to the depths of his soul, leaving Naruto alone with his own reflection once again. Naruto grinned at himself. I think it's time to go. The bathroom door opened and the demigods waiting around in the lounge room of the Hokage mansion looked up as Naruto walked in, decked out in his new gear. Talia gave a small frown at it. Sure he looked good, that he does. Piper rolled her eyes at her mom, geez. Subtly much? But it was just another reminder that he decided to tie himself down to these strange lands. Someone's jealous they have to share. Seriously, Annie, I love you, but shut up. Now. I grantee nothing. The blonde chuckled at the sight of the uncomfortable-looking Jason. He was wearing an orange Camp Half-Blood shirt that Naruto had dug out. Looks good on you, Jason. Piper smiled, Talia nodded. Agreed. He must be really uncomfortable right now, sniggered Leo. Jason flushed a bit at that. It was that or the game-over shirt with the logo of a bride and a groom with a ball and chain on it. The bachelor god snickered at that while Hera frowned deeply. Oh, when she found out who made that. And quite frankly, Naruto wasn't sure how Hera would react to a child of Zeus or Jupiter wearing that particular shirt. Smart choice. Jason shivered at the unpleased look on his matron goddess. And some loose dark cargo shorts. Miss your Camp Jupiter shirt, Jason? Naruto asked. Kinda. Jason admitted aloud. I feel naked, said Jason with a frown. Well, I don't feel that bad. Jason pointed out quickly from the looks he was getting, mainly the amused ones. As he looked down at the shirt. Seriously? Camp Half-Blood? Hey, don't diss my camp. Talia frowned at her brother. Not your camp anymore. Percy corrected her. Shut up, still my camp. The hunter pouted. Stupid name, right? Naruto asked. Is not. Argued the campers of the camp. Talk about making you feel less than human. Ouch? Leo blinked. It's supposed to make you feel more than human, said Talia. Exactly. Annabeth nodded sternly. No one got away with dissing her camp, not even her other's older brother figure / confusing maybe love interest? Well, it fails spectacularly, said Naruto dryly. Does not. Annie, he can't hear you. Doesn't matter, humph. He pointed at himself with his thumb. I grew up with the stigma of being less than human. Excuse me for not exactly enjoying the camp's name. Annabeth flinched. Okay, so maybe for someone like him it isn't the best name. She begrudgingly admitted. And admitting it is always the first step. Be quiet, Piper. Talia shook her head while Piper looked at the praetor of Camp Jupiter with a smirk. You should probably try to call the Olympians by their Greek names as long as you wear that. And McLean with the zinger. Hermes laughed with Apollo and some of the other demigods laughed with them. Jason mock frowned at that while Piper giggled lightly at his face. It'll probably keep you from getting smote. Very true. Zeus mused humorously to his Roman son, who groaned. Great, even his Greek father was making fun. Ha, 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 said Jason dryly, see? Jason making a joke is great. Dude, Jason said to Leo with a look of betrayal. Just being honest man, you are a stiff at times. Making the girl giggle. He snorted and crossed his arms. You're lucky you're cute. Oh, and Jay makes the first move. Leo whistled out as Piper smirked to her boyfriend. Wow, tell a girl more later, he whispered to her. And a girl, said Naruto with a smirk. Jason doesn't like hitting girls, goes against his moral code. I was not that much a stiff. The wind boy cried out. Unlike someone who doesn't have a moral code, said Jason. Who knew Jason had comebacks? Leo said in surprise. I can be witty. Dude, you are as witty as a wet blanket at times. Shut up, Leo. My point exactly. Bah, it's a worthless thing for a ninja, said Naruto, waving the younger blonde's words off. Very true, guys like that were made to get the job done. Not debate morality of an act. Ares snorted, guerrilla tactics. Warriors are warriors, no matter the sex. The girls cheered at that. Damn right, said Talia with a smirk. Go me. She pushed herself off the wall she was leaning against and crossed her arms over her chest. Are we ready to go yet? Yep, said Naruto. Finally, Hades said with Nico agreeing with eager nods of his head. He held his hands up in the seal for the cage bunshine technique, making a single clone, who he looked at sternly. You say goodbye to Reiko-chan, Ayame and Iruka. Then Bakken and Kakashi-sensei. Hi, said the clone, his eyes rolling. The clone turned and left the room, grumbling under his breath. Clone labor, best labor ever. Apollo snickered along with a few others. I heard that. Oh, what are you going to do, dispel me? And the back talk, always primetime comedy right there. Hermes added with a smirk. Piper and Jason laughed at the clone's retort while Talia smirked at her growling boyfriend. Well, they are all him, so they must be all annoying. Artemis smirked, just like his father. Arte, why? It's funny. Plain and simple. Naruto pinched the bridge of his nose and mumbled something about stupid clones and damn inherited annoying qualities. From Apollo. Seriously, getting old, Herm. PSH, never does. The thief argued with a snort. Sighing as he finished his small moment, Naruto let his hand drop and turned to look at his amused companions. Glad you're all enjoying yourselves at my expense, he said. Anytime. All right then, I suppose it's time to get moving. Follow me. Naruto turned and left the room, heading for the stairs. Talia, Jason and Piper quickly followed him, going up the spiraling staircase for what felt like forever until Naruto pushed open a door at the end of a short hallway. They filed out onto a large circular roof, giving Piper and Jason a very good view of the massive village. They barely got to admire it as a nice sight. The girl admitted. Nice spot for a first quest date, Aphrodite teased. Maybe. Piper muttered as Jason smiled a small smile at that. While Talia hung back away from the view, lest she be reminded how high up she was. The wind boy sent his sister a smile as she scowled at him. Stop thinking what you're thinking, Jay. I have no idea what you're talking about. Damn right, you little brat, humph. Naruto paid no mind to this, putting his fingers in his mouth and whistling loudly. He ignored the questioning looks he received, keeping his eyes on the sun and the sky. Then they heard it, a distant whinny of a very familiar horse. And the horse is back. Apollo whooped as Poseidon smirked at the entrance of the fire horse. Oh, no, said Talia with a groan. We're not taking that thing again, are we? How else are we supposed to get back to Camp Jupiter? I don't know, Piper, Talia glared at her, but seriously. Anything would have been better. Well, unless you guys would like to drag my sexy ass, which it is. Mom. Through the gates of Camp Jupiter, this is our fastest ride, said Naruto, he's got a point. Be quiet, Jay, seriously, glowered the hunter at the smirking Roman. His eyes following the bright form of his steed. He smirked at Jason. You know, your cousin has a Pegasus, Jason. You should probably look into getting a ride of your own. I will later, hopefully. Jason smiled, wondering where Tempest was right now. Jason arched a brow. But, I can fly. Dude, the ride makes the man, Leo scolded the Roman. The golden boy rolled his eyes. It's the principle of the thing, said Naruto with a shrug. See? Naruto agrees with me. And we all know that is the most important thing. Yeah, Leo. The blonde told his buddy. It's like having a car. Except, 10 times as awesome. Just look at that horsepower, Leo said with a grin as the guys laughed. Poseidon was beaming though. I mean, Zephyr can fly, is made of fire and talks to me. Blackjack, Percy's steed, has wings and is a direct descendant of the original Pegasus. I had a flying dragon. Leo added to the list. Yeah, named Happy. And what a happy dragon he is, still to this day as a head figure for my awesome boat. Really? Remind me to congratulate the seaweed-clotted idiot when we get back to camp, said Talia flatly. Jerk. Aw, Percy, I say it with love, Talia teased the boy. She was not looking forward to another ride on that stupid chariot. Another thought came to her and Talia looked at Naruto with a frown. How'd you get Percy's horse to let you push Percy off? It's Talia, he's a guy. Percy glared at his cousin, but yes, he was wondering too. The hunter shrugged, whatever. His, not its. Thank you, Naruto. Whatever. Talia rolled her eyes. Exactly. Talia nodded happily as Percy's glare gained a scowl. How'd you get Percy's horse to agree to you dropping Percy from different heights into the water? Freaky ninja magic. Percy pointed out. Maybe. His girlfriend mused with a quirked lip. Naruto blinked before holding a finger up. 1. I'm pushing him into water. Any injuries he should obtain are healed by the squid god's domain. Yes, sad fact. Correct, squid god? Athena asked her rival, who glowered at the name. Stupid Hercules movie. Naruto held a second finger up. 2. It's a way to calculate heights by instinct, I'm not just being an ass. Liar. Son of me, Jackson. He can't. Still. There's always a method to my madness, right Jay? See Percy? I had to go through it, too. I feel your pain from here, brother. The two shared a smile together. Annabeth shook her head and mouthed bromance to Piper, who nodded with a snort of laughter in return. Jason nodded in agreement to that. Naruto had Jason hogtied several times just to teach Jason how to correctly escape binds. Ooh, a little bondage, huh? Aphrodite asked her daughter's boyfriend, who was red at the comment. Mom, please. The burning red face Piper begged. All she got was a smirk. By sharpening the wind around him. He rubbed his wrists at the phantom rope burns. There were a lot of times he woke up in different bindings and positions. Kinky. Stop that, Talia shouted at the love goddess. She did not need to hear that about her brother. Who was currently so red you could mistake him for a cherry. It begged the question what else Naruto learned. Fun times for Talia in the bedroom. Aphrodite, enough. Zeus told her, getting a pretty pout from the goddess and thankful looks from his children. And 3, Naruto held up a third finger with a grin. I figured out through Silena that Blackjack has a soft spot for donuts. Blast. Percy cursed, stupid Silena, he pouted. So a couple of those and assurances that the training was for Percy's benefit, and I had a co-conspirator. Traitor. But it was for you benefit. Annabeth pointed out. Still a traitor. The son of the sea pouted. That is the most devious thing I've ever heard, said Piper as she and Jason gaped at the proudly grinning Naruto. I mean, turning his own steed against him. I know. Total jackass. I try. Don't. Ever. Percy added in a grumpy mood. Speaking of steeds, said Jason. He pointed at the descending ball of fire. He's not going to pull another landing, is he? Well, that was your fault, Jay. No, it wasn't. The blonde son of Rome frowned at his sister. He was an amazing chariot driver, thank you very much. Oh yeah, Zephyr was never the landing horse, said Helios thoughtfully. Very true. Most of the gods said. See? Not my fault, Talia. Whatever helps you sleep at night, Jason. Talia waved off in a teasing tone. This was fun. We might want to move, said Naruto. He wrapped his arm around Talia, diving out of the way as the ball of fire impacted with the roof of the Hokage mansion. The foundation of the building shook from the impact, making Jason and Piper fall to the ground. The sound of it echoed for miles. That is one zany horse. I hear you, Herm, it's why I use an engine now. Apollo added. Zephyr reared back on his hind legs, the chariot already hooked up, and whinnied proudly. Naruto and Talia got back up, both looking at the horse with different reactions. Naruto's was stunned and Talia's was livid. Course I would, I was almost crushed. What about us? Jason asked his sister as Piper glanced at her too. I was closer. The hunter huffed. That stupid horse could have killed us, Talia said, not stupid. Poseidon muttered and glared at his niece. Getting a mild snort from said stupid horse. Zephyr was rather smart among his kin, thank you. True, he's just a cheeky devil at times is all. Apollo assured the audience. Zephyr's not stupid, said Naruto in defense of his steed. He put a hand on the fiery horse's snout and petted him gently. Right, bud? Zephyr nodded with another soft snort, enjoying the petting he received. Naruto oh. Someone's in trouble. Hazel whistled. Hermes wiped a mock tear. I'm so proud to call him my nephew. He choked out. And that, my friends, is our cue to leave, said Naruto, stopping his petting as the four of them climbed aboard the chariot. Naruto grabbed the reins and cracked them as soon as Piper and Talia's hands gripped the sides of Helia's chariot. Here comes the ego build, Artemis said dryly. He liked the sound of that, his chariot. Like getting your own car, back in the day that is, Hephaestus laughed a bit. Less ego more speed oh. Helios snapped well, it is summer, Poseidon joked. Honestly, Hades blanched, whoever made that idea was sick in the mind. I happen to love them, Aphrodite said with a crooked smile. Naruto from his days as they took off. Just like your old man, you know that? What's that supposed to mean? A lot. Artemis told him blandly. If he's old, what does that make you? Naruto returned. Take that hell. I'm ancient, wise and yet still the stud muffin I was millennia ago. Well, he was all seeing and knowing, Athena agreed. And still a hunk, the love goddess added. Apollo muttered, stupid sun titan. And I have the ego? Naruto asked quietly. What was that? Jason asked. Nothing, just talking to myself, said Naruto. And nothing wrong with that. Nico nodded, a tad mockingly mind you. There was another cry of his name and Naruto, through learned instincts, ducked to avoid being hit by the stapler that should have been thrown at his head. Woman's got quite the arm, Apollo whistled out. Artemis nodded, here, that was a good distance away along with the speed they are flying with. Looking back over his shoulder past Talia's face at the Hokage mansion that was rapidly becoming smaller, Naruto grinned. Goodbye, Bakken. Ah, one last taunting goodbye. Hermes snickered, always the best ones. On the cracked roof of the Hokage tower, the god I'm Hokage scowled and her hands clenched into fists. That little. You'd best lose that mouth while you're gone, brat, or I'll rip it off. Sorry, can't hear you from the sky. Ares jeered with a laugh. Tsunade Dono, I think it would be wise not to antagonize the first Sennin no Rengagun, sage of the alliance, said Gaara with a barely noticeable smirk on his face. Hey, stoic guy is laughing on the inside. Hermes snickered, oh man, if the bland guys are laughing too, then it was really funny. Antagonize him? Tsunade said, swiveling her gaze around to glare at him. Your mansion wasn't just desecrated by a freaking meteor. Fire horse, a big misconception. Apollo waved off. Really? Leo asked. Apollo smiled, of course. It makes me wonder just what else he has learned over in this America, said E, crossing his massive arms over his chest. A lot of things, Athena said. Bah, from the reports given to us by Konoha, it is nothing to be concerned of, said Aniki. They believe in a higher power and are physically weak. And yet, they have far better technology and have us, Apollo sneered at the old troll, never liking him. Back in my day, religion brought nothing but grief and sorrow. When the Nidaime Tsuchikage did away with it. Oh, so we have someone to blame now. Perfect. Zeus nodded along with the other gods. The history lesson is so very interesting, Aniki Dono, but could you please save it for another time? Said May dryly. Her gaze went to a retreating ball of fire and a smirk tugged at her lips. I do wonder if he could teach me that? Cougar. Talia frowned with crossed arms. The other four Kage rolled their eyes at the desperate single woman. Ha, she really is desperate. The hunter smirked. So jealous. Talia grumbled shut up, to her friend. They followed her gaze and looked to the disappearing streak of light, each wondering when the new asset/old friend/son would return and what else he would bring with him. Only time would tell. Apollo made the mysterious alien noise and wiggling his fingers. So, we've got about 10 minutes before we get back to the boot camp, said Talia, once more trying to distract herself from the current situation. Well, she isn't wrong. Percy admitted, to the boot camp part anyway. She kept her eyes on Naruto's back, looking at the clan seal intently. What's with the swirl? The what? Naruto asked, looking at her over his shoulder. The swirl on the back of your jacket. You said it was your clan seal, what's that? It's his clan symbol, said Piper. The Grace siblings looked at her and she shrugged. I like looking up stuff on Wikipedia, sue me. Guilty. Piper flushed a bit, she got bored a lot. Isn't always right. Annabeth pointed out. So? You still learn stuff. The love child defended her other. Little wannabe Cabin 6 member, said Talia with a smirk. I did kinda hope. Sweetie. Oh relax mom, I'm cool with it. Good. I don't know what that means, said Piper dryly. Seriously, kinda new to this whole thing. Oh be quiet McLean, Talia pouted at the girl's teasing tone. Me either, said Jason. You should, said Talia with a frown as she looked at her brother. Yes, you should know the seat numbers. Athena scowled at the boy of Rome. Jason said nothing to that, not wanting to get the Greek goddess to smite him or something. Jason rolled his eyes. Don't you roll your eyes at me, mister. Talia, stop it. Jason groaned at her glare. It wasn't like he was doing it. Blame his other. I'm Roman. You're Greek. Excuses. Athena scoffed. I'm Cherokee, said Piper with a smile. Very true. Aphrodite smiled as Piper nodded, proud of her heritage. And I'm some blend of Euro-Asian, said Naruto dryly. He does pull it off, Annabeth admitted, and Percy gave her a side glance. What? I'm just saying. Sure, Percy said, frowning. Oh great, now he's all grumpy, Annie, Talia said. I am not. Yeah, you are, Nico said. Shut it, Corpse Prince. What does it matter? In my opinion, the demigods shouldn't have been split in the first place. Well, after the Civil War, yeah, kinda, Hermes said dryly. But still, in today's day and age, I'm sure there could be reasonable terms between them, Aphrodite said. Ares snorted, please, they should be at each other's throats, much more fun. For once, Athena said, I agree with the barbarian. Who? Roman and Greek aspects aside, we're not so different after all. $10 says that Ares and Mars kids would get along splendidly. I don't see it, Percy said as he looked at Frank critically. From what I've heard, I'd have to somewhat agree, the husky boy added. Meh, says you, his father's Greek aspect said. You may be onto something there, said Jason with a chuckle. He leaned back to look at the spiral. What does that mean? You asked Richard to give you another tattoo, he's got more than one? Hazel asked with a blink. Apollo snorted, body art, he said, as if it explained it all. Another tattoo? Talia asked, giving the whiskered blonde a glare. Don't like ink on your boy, Talia? Piper asked with a grin. What, you like Jay's? It does give a rugged feel to him. Can you two not talk about that, please? The blonde nearly begged. We'll think about it. The two girls said with equal amounts of amusement. Naruto ignored the eyes burning into the back of his head. Like you're one to talk, Mr. 4 years old and tattooed. Oh, did he have to bring this up? The wind boy groaned. Great, just great. What? There's the freak out, Annabeth said with a sigh. Tradition, Talia, said Jason, waving it off like it's nothing. Still pissed about that, the hunter said firmly. No wait, you have a tattoo? Since you were a kid? Piper asked. That is a bit of a shocker. Tradition. Hazel told the love child. Still, kind of weird. Yeah, so? Jason, Talia said. She looked livid. Damn right I would be, and I still am. Amazing, Hades droned, an angry child of Zeus. Poseidon chuckled at that. What? What the hell? I know. What's the big deal? Jason asked. He rolled up the sleeve of Naruto's lone shirt to reveal his upper arm, revealing the eagle above the black SPQR and the 10 lines underneath it. This is a symbol of the Legion, and I'm proud to have it. Who? The Romans cheered. Percy just gave a smirk. Besides, it didn't hurt that much. It did kinda hurt. Percy admitted. Wimp. Ares snickered. Jackass. Was the swift retort. Aha, and who cried a bit when they got that 5th line. Jason blanched. How did he? You did? Piper asked. I was little. The blonde argued. Aw, poor baby, his girlfriend cooed. The son of Rome just scowled. Shut up, Naruto. Yeah dude, shut it, Jason frowned, he had his rep to protect. Wait, you didn't get those all at once? Piper asked, looking at the tattoo in awe. Guess some girls like ink, huh Piper? Like I said, the charm speaker said, gives him a rugged look. So, you like bad boys? Maybe. But Jay isn't one. Leo pointed out, getting a mild glare. Like mother, like daughter, Hephaestus grunted, getting Piper to blanch. The eagle was simple, and yet elegantly proud all the same. 1 bar for every year of service, said Jason, pointing at each line and ignoring the glare boring into his head. Hey, don't you ignore me. You say something, Talia? Jason joked, before getting rapped in the back of the head. Ow. That's what you get. He learned well from Naruto how to brush anger directed at you off. He's a very good influence on you, Jason's girlfriend pointed out in amusement. Very, Jason said dryly. Unfortunately, this meant that he never learned when to practice this, hence why Talia continued to glare at him. Ah Jason, you have much to learn, young grasshopper, Apollo said in a perfect Chinese-English voice. He glanced at Naruto. You still got yours? Duh, said the blonde charioteer. He shifted the reins to one arm and rolled up his sleeve, revealing bare skin. Naruto took a deep breath before sighing as chakra was dispersed around his arm, revealing a small tag wrapped over his arm, right underneath a lyre tattooed into his skin above the letters SPQR. That's a cool way to hide something from your mother, Percy joked. I don't think your mom is going to be thrilled with yours, Annabeth said. Percy shivered at that tidbit his girlfriend told him. No, she would not. There was one lonely bar under his mark. Now I might have my own serial code, but I was deemed expired. That got some snickered, except from the Roman kids. Naruto, you stirred up a rally outside of the Senate. No cool. Jason grimaced, he no doubt had to do something about that. Which you were a part of. Knew it, the blonde said under his breath. I was doing crowd control. We've never had to do that before. The Superman said with a frown. My kid Ju brings the insanity. Hey, Mr. D frowned, that's my shtick. Meh, whatever. Apollo shrugged. And you were an adorable little riot shield. Aw, did you have armor and everything? Talia mockingly cooed as she pinched his cheek. Stop that. Now. He batted the hand away. I don't think I will, Jay. The younger Grace just grumbled under his breath. I think I hate you. I love you, too, Jason. And that right there is male bonding time, Apollo said with a proud choking sob. Jason Grace, you were 4 when you got a tattoo? Talia asked, looking at her brother sternly. Here comes protective sister mode, Talia mused, eager to see it happen. You seem so happy about it. Jason muttered under his breath. Yeah, said Jason, looking at his sister with genuine confusion. So what? A bit slow, aren't you? I do not want to hear that from you of all people, Percy. The blonde scowled. It was not called for. I think it puts hair on his chest. Amen to that. Silence, Ares. Hera told her son, frowning. You, stop talking, said Talia, glaring at her boyfriend while Piper laughed at Naruto's shoulders slumping. He is funny to watch, the charm speaker admitted. She looked back at Jason. You, that thing is coming off. What? I am in agreement. No, Jason glared at his sister. As soon as we get back to the boot camp. Wah, I'm not getting rid of my tattoo. Damn right. Seriously, Jay, listen to your sister. Make me. Not like you could, said Naruto with a snort. Exactly. Exactly. The Roman turned pink at that as everyone sniggered at him. Jason, you shut up. Maybe I don't wanna. Jason muttered snidely. Whiskers, talk. Jason looked bewildered at Talia's order, making Piper laugh just a bit harder, which got a small frown from the blonde for being her subject of amusement. Well, we'll have stories, Piper teased. Her boyfriend just pouted at her. The tattoos are more or less blessed scars, like from the original Legion, said Naruto. Perfectly told. Hazel state, but Talia just pursed her lips. Still don't like it. Marks of war, survival of a whole year. An honor. Taking Jason's tattoo away is like taking away Annabeth's beads. Seriously? Annabeth asked Jason, who nodded, wow. The blonde whistled out. She would hate if that happened. They branded my brother? Talia said, enraged. Wasn't branded. Jason argued with a pout. My baby brother, I'm not a baby. You will always be one to me. Says the one who's never going to grow up. Don't you get smart with me, mister. Got branded by some sick bastards. Bet the Senate would love to hear that, Frank muttered, but Talia gave him a glare. Who think that kids getting tattoos is honorable, she spat the last word out, showing her disgust with the whole thing. The Romans glared at Talia, but she just gave them a dull blink. I'm fully agreeing with her, you can't change my mind. I'm not a baby, Talia, said Jason, who looked a tad annoyed. He was 14, damn it. Jason nodded to his other, I know. She didn't call you a baby, said Piper, a wide smile on her face. Yes, she did. She loved this more and more, gets that from her mother, the Smith god said. Though there were a few things she was still uncomfortable with, fighting monsters and seeing someone die, yeah, not nice. I know other me, I know. Piper felt that this new camp would be more entertaining than anything. It is. The Greeks smirked while the Romans pouted somewhat. Shame that Jason wouldn't be with them, he was kind of fun to talk to. And make kissy faces with, right Piper? Quiet Leo, let other me get into the swing of things. You mean Jason wrapped around your finger? Yes. Ah. Jason just flushed with a pout, he was not wrapped around Piper's finger, right? She called you her baby brother. I still remember him wetting the bed, too. Talia. The son of Rome cried out in distress as everyone laughed at that one. Talia was just grinning ear to ear. Because that makes it all better, said Jason with a frown. It should help a bit. It's not, the blonde said dryly. Hey, no flirting or you'll be flying home on your own power, Jason, said Naruto with a smirk. We're not flirting. Jason frowned, but turned to his girlfriend, right? He wasn't sure on that stuff to be honest. More like idle chit-chat. Piper told him. He was rewarded with one red-faced preteen while the other just rolled his eyes. Seems you disagree. Quiet Sparky. Ah, The wonders of hormones mixed with stupidity. He missed those days. I don't know, Talia mused, he's still pretty stupid. So basically you and he got a Percy and Annabeth thing going on? Leo asked her. Seems like it. The couple in question blushed at the insinuation. I don't flirt, Naruto, said Jason flatly. Yeah, too much of a tough guy, Leo snickered. At least I don't flirt with everything that has breasts. Ooh, see, now this is the fun Jason. The pyro laughed more as Jason frowned at his dig having no effect. Of course you don't, said Naruto with a chuckle. Doesn't mean that little Miss Aphrodite's daughter wasn't. Even if she didn't mean to, Piper is one heck of a flirt. Am not. You somewhat are, sweetie. Mom. Piper whined with red cheeks as Jason have her a half hug to get her to relax. You can heal it, right Whiskers? Talia asked. His burn. He wouldn't, Jason said. He should though, Talia mumbled aloud, crossing her arms. I think I could, said Naruto after a moment of thought. But I won't. See, Talia. And why not? Yes, why not? Talia pouted to her other's boyfriend. Like I said before, it'd be like taking Annie's beads from her. I'd never do that, said Naruto, rolling his sleeve back down while his eyes met Talia's. Neither would you. Talia's pout said volumes. Though she didn't like her brother branded. Talia frowned at the truth in his words, her jaw clenching. Still, the fact remains that you're jealous that we got tattoos before you did, said Naruto with a smirk. Is this true, Talia? Jason smirked as the tables turned. It is not, Talia said in heated denial. Aha. It isn't, Jason, shut up, Talia cried out from the look sent her way. Her cheeks heated a bit and Naruto chuckled lightly. I think it might be. Zip it, wethead. Now, Talia, no need to shout. Maybe a little hard on your shoulder. Nico, I swear. Oh come on, Talia, don't be jealous. I'll take you to get your own if you want. A cute little butterfly right above that spot on your, ow. Talia turned fluorescent red at that, he did not just say that. She wanted to shout, but it came out as a squeak instead. Percy and Nico roared in laughter, he did. They both said as one. Shut up you two. Don't wanna / nope. Gonna kill you both and you're the hunter muttered darkly as she plotted her cousin's assassinations. Shut up, Naruto, said Talia after she smacked him upside the head, her face red hot in embarrassment. So it is true. Annie. Well is he right? Jason asked, looking at his red-faced sister with an arched brow. Jason you zip that lip, now, Talia threatened her brother, who was just out to open his mouth. Jason crossed his arms, he had every right to mock his sister, right? So unfair. Why would I lie about getting her one of those cute little butterflies above her? Ow, shutting up, said Naruto, rubbing his recently punched arm. Thank you and the gods. Talia grumbled. Any time. The gods said in amusement, all laughing and snickering in their own way. I am not jealous of your tattoo, Talia said with a frown directed at her brother. You so are, Percy smirked at her, but stopped from her raised sparking fist. She gets that from you, by the way, Poseidon whispered to his brother, who just glared at him for the remark. She was a little jealous. Talia did a good impression of a turtle as she ducked into her jacket as everyone sent her amused looks with a few snickers being heard. But there was no way she was going to tell him that, damn right. Since she was mad that her brother was forced to get branded at such a young age. Well, technically we are getting burned. Hazel acknowledged. Thank you but still, it is being done willingly. Not, thank you Hazel. The hunter pouted. You so are, said Piper with a smirk. Do you want your boyfriend to take you to get it done? I mean maybe not a butterfly but, ow. Hey. She rubbed her arm where Talia punched her. What you get? Jerk, Piper pouted to Talia, her other was just joking. I thought you were on my side, said Talia, frowning. Yeah Piper. All's fair in love and war, said Piper with a shrug. Yeah Talia. Piper smirked. Aphrodite beamed at the saying. Not entirely sure that applies here, Pipes. Why does he keep calling me that? Stop calling me that. I think for that reaction, Hazel helpfully answered. Oh hush you. All's fair in love and war, said Naruto with a smirk. No fair. Yes fair, Piper, her mother scolded teasingly, getting the girl to puff her cheeks with a huff. Hypocrite. Damn right he is other me. Sticks and stones, Pipes, sticks and stones. I'll give you a stonelite, if you don't stop calling me that. A couple of trees, two apparently, said Jason. And Jason with the one-liner. Leo mock cheered with a grin, why can't you be that funny? I can be funny. Poseidon snorted, you have your father's humor my boy, blame him. I can be funny. Zeus argued. Please, Hades snorted, your children took it all from you, before you even had it. Poseidon gave a loud laugh at that while Zeus simmered with a glare locked on his elder brother. Since when did you become such a smartass? Naruto asked his friend. Yes, enlighten us. Leo chirped. When did you get exiled? 5 years ago. 6 years ago. And Jason graced with the zing. Hermes whistled, clearly impressed. Well, it seems we need to have some more training sessions, Jason, Naruto said, looking ahead as the broke through the clouds. I'll have to stop by Camp Jupiter sometime soon and up you and the rest of the cohorts, training. Gonna need a montage. Leo sang out. A montage. Hermes and Apollo finished with laughs at the good one. Leo buffed his nails on his shirt. Yep, still had it. Wait, why would we need more training sessions? If it was anything like mine. Percy trailed off with a shiver as Jason shared the motion. Someone has been slacking. You totally got slammed into a mountainside. But that was super ninjas. Excuses. Ares snorted. Jason just glared at him. Super ninjas. That was your fault. Exactly. You could have stopped yourself mid-air, but you didn't. Point to the blonde, Jay. Jason sent his sister a betrayed look. Hence, slacking. I think being a preacher might have gone to your head a bit. Jason sputtered at the accusation. Same happened with his father. Hades staged whispered. I know, Poseidon said back with a smirk as Zeus gritted his teeth at the two. Ungrateful brothers. Let's see what happens next time you get eaten. You can expect me sometime over the course of the fall. Jason turned a bit pale at that. While he acknowledged that the outcome of Naruto's training was great, see Percy? Totally worth it. Oh, stuff it, pinecone face. He still hated it. It was sadistic, and that's why he works for me. Hades smiled brilliantly at that. It was insane and quite frankly, it reminded Jason of some of the things Lupa put him through. Oh damn, the kids of Rome shivered at the very notion. Reina had told him that Naruto and Lupa got along far too well, and that scared Jason. A lot. Percy and the Romans shivered, that was not a good thing. Not good at all. Master, we've arrived, you should prepare for landing, said Zephyr as they began to climb. Just him? Piper asked, what about us? Oh, not again. Can't we get some warning? Talia asked irritably as her eyes squeezed shut. Well, Naruto did. Apollo grinned. Not the point. I did, said Naruto with a laugh. See? The hunter just glared at the male archery god. Bring us in, Zephyr. The fiery steed whinnied proudly before dropping towards the ground, parting the clouds over Camp Jupiter as he did. The 3 young demigods screamed in alarm while Naruto laughed. Well, glad to see someone's having fun. The champion of Juno said in a dry tone with crossed arms. I would, Zephyr was the bomb back in the day. I believe no one was asking you, Apollo. And I could care less, sis. He was a thrill seeker, and like many Uzumaki before him, not all of his screws were tight. Crazy ones always are the best, Mr. D smirked. They do say that the line between genius and insanity was thin, very true, Athena nodded, it was the way of the world. After all, and there was no one cleverer than the Uzumaki clan when it came to their trademarked art of sealing. Says a lot about that family line, doesn't it? Yes, Artemis said dryly and looked at her grinning twin, not doubt. Faster, faster, Naruto said, laughing once more. Whiskers, you're crazy. He is. And proud of it. You should not be proud of it, Jason said. Totally agree. We've had this talk before, Jason. Lighten up. There's lightening up and dying in fiery death. Jason complained, he didn't want to die in a fiery death. Whatever Jason was going to say died on his lips as they hit the ground before the bridge to Camp Jupiter. 3 of the 4 demigods were sprawled around the impact zone, Naruto still in his chariot only because of the chakra he was using to stick to it. Thanks Naruto, thanks a lot, Talia said with a glare. He dropped to the ground when the chariot burst into flames and vanished, patting Zephyr lightly on the side when he walked around to him. Stupid horse. I thought he was funny. I will make you sleep with the fishes and not in the good way you're about to retort with. Talia told the son of the sea. All right Zephyr, I think you know what I need you to do next, said Naruto. He got a nod from the horse before he took off in a gallop to the bridge, rising up with another trail of fire following his hooves. I want to make a human torch line, Leo said, struggling to do so. Naruto smiled at his loyal steed. Remind me to get him an extra large bag of popcorn kernels after this, the blonde thought to his past life. Will do. I can already hear his reaction. Popcorn, said Helios with a laugh. Oh no, he didn't, Apollo laughed with Hermes and the demigods. And yes, he was impersonating exactly who you thought he was impersonating. He did. Hermes choked out with shaking shoulders. Naruto laughed at Helios' comment, walking over to his grumbling girlfriend to offer her help back to her feet. Talia rolled her eyes, such a gentleman. Indeed he is. I was being sarcastic. I know. The love goddess grinned, doesn't make it any less true. He loved having voices in his head, made the insanity that comes with being a shinobi a bit easier to deal with. Get along with the voices inside of my head, Apollo sang out and wrote it down, he could spin something with that. The 4 teens, 3 of them a bit miffed that the 4th hadn't bothered to help them remain standing, entered Camp Jupiter, getting a small welcoming committee from the guards, Terminus and of course Naruto's favorite Roman god, Phoebus Apollo. Ah, the return of Sir Douchebag. Hermes smirked and a hand holding his chin. Still me, bro. Oh, I know. Little ass. Hermes was grinning the entire time. Hey kids. Way to go on a successful quest, Jason. Not like you've never done it before, thanks? Jason blinked, what was that? But hey. How was the Hidden Lands? Just as chaotic as I remember? Phoebus asked as they walked through the camp. The god led them into the main temple, giving his father's statue a small wave before turning to face the unimpressed kids. Well, that was nice of him, Zeus said. Apollo rolled his eyes, of course it was. You could be more like that, you know. PSH, pass pops. No deal. Zeus just frowned at that. In the midst of the 4th war, said Naruto dryly. Drat, Ares snapped his fingers, we still haven't had our 3rd yet. Stupid ninjas. That's a good thing, Ares. No, Owlhead, it isn't. The war god pouted and crossed his arms childishly. Lucky ninja bastards. Phoebus frowned. Shame that. Hope no one else I know dies, especially not Hitake. I liked him. I thought it was Apollo crammed into a human? Artemis asked. Yeah, Apollo thought so, too, said Apollo. Oh us, he's talking in 3rd person, again. Hermes became ashen with horror. You were not Minato Namikaze, said Naruto with a scowl. Yeah, I was all that sexy badassness. Well, you're half right, said Phoebus with a crooked grin. Wrong, Athena corrected. Oh, like you knew. I just found out. That doesn't count. Says you, Athena said with a winning smile to her bow-using brother. Funny thing about my father's powers, very unpredictable, quick to change, even on him. This is true. Oh, be silent, silent one. You get that from him, you know. So it is hereditary further down than just your children, Poseidon sighed out, we're all doomed. The Sky Lord just glared at his brother for that remark, as did his children. I'm flattered. Note the flattery on my face, said Naruto, his face blank. Burn. Leo, come on, from you? Sorry Uncle Hermes, but someone had to. Sigh, very true. Oh, come on, it's not like you hate all of the king's aspects, said Phoebus, glancing at Talia. Talia blushed a little at that while Zeus and Jason frowned ever so slightly. Of course the others snickered or snorted at that one. I think you know by now that she and her father are 2 different people. Yep, said all the gods, minus Zeus, as one. And thank order for that. Talia nodded. Zeus just looked pouty. Oh, I have no doubt about that, but there are similarities, I'm sure, said Phoebus, a snort escaping him. Like the power-hungry thing. No one asked you, Percy. I know. The son of the sea grinned. Back to the point I was making, my father's little lesson changed me more than he anticipated. Apollo of both pantheons, Greek and Roman, merged if you think about it, Ares started, that's an interesting concept. He mused, greatly impressed by the combination of the 2 pantheons. He wondered what it would be like if he merged with Mars? So, this some strange DBZ fusion stuff? Leo asked aloud. Seems so. Piper nodded. Freaky. To become the calm, collected, brilliant, and sexy Minato Namikaze there's that modest. Oh shut up Hermes, besides, it's all true, I honestly don't know where the humility came from. Seriously, with his lineage, that shouldn't have been possible. Hades snorted and ignored that over half the gods gave him. Minato was raised an orphan, said Naruto, helpfully. True, no god spoiling. Artemis noted. I was not spoiled. Of course not. Says Little Miss Wishes. Uncalled for. I beg to differ. Children. Sorry Aunt Hestia. The twins said as one, and Mach glared at one another for it. True, the memories are still foggy of Minato's younger years, said Phoebus Apollo, rubbing his temple. A migraine and a memory every now and then of some days. He made a soft sound and shook his head. Anyway, congratulations are in order for you, Jason. You've become the first Roman demigod to set foot in the Hidden Lands. That's one small step for Romans, one small leap for Romankind, CRSH, Leo said in a spaceman voice. You forgot to plant the flag. Piper grinned to her bow. Jason just snapped his fingers in mock disappointment. Another impressive thing to add to your growing repertoire. Like the Trojan sea monster, Jason said, tough thing that was. Oh, Poseidon blinked and looked at his Roman nephew. You, so that was you? Yes sir. Nice job. Thanks. You've earned your rest and my gratitude, something not many can claim. Very true. Apollo nodded with crossed arms. We do hardly see the gods too, only Terminus. The wind boy said. We tend to stick closer to home. Zeus informed. It's home for me. Hades reminded. Exactly. Thank you, Lord Apollo, said Jason, nodding in gratitude. Suck up. Ares jeered. Silence Ares. His mother said. The war god just scowled at his mother's current favorite. Phoebus, said Naruto, giving a light smirk at the scowl he got from his father's Roman aspect. He loves pushing them buttons. Hermes whistled. No doubt. Artemis grinned. Oh, she hoped Diana was hearing this somehow. It was a great way to shut her brother's Roman side up. Fishcake, Phoebus said, enjoying the sight of his son's smirk falling into a frown. Counter. Hermes announced. Asshole. True. Oh screw you, D, no thanks, in enough trouble from the nymph. Brat. Kinda true, Talia said. He's your brat though, right? Shut up Annie. Self-absorbed idiot. Very accurate. Arte. Ungracious punk. He does take after his father in that aspect. Apollo just glare at his sly-looking stepmother. Old shrew. Man whore. Artemis sent Apollo a dirty look. Oh come on, Artemis, no need to look like that. Silence Aphrodite, only you would encourage it. Oh course, it gives me more demigods to pair up. The love goddess chirped with a wide grin on her amazing face. Uck, you really are sickening. Oh little Miss Virgin girl should shut her chaste lips. Which ones? Ares, Hera shouted with rage as Artemis glared venomously at him as well. Sorry. He didn't sound sorry at all. Manchild. Apollo, once again. Hermes. Stop with the zings, please. I can't. It's like some otherworldly force is completing me to do so. That's BS and you know it, right? Yeah, sorry. For the lie, not about the zings, I mean. The two blondes looked quite comical, inches away from each other's faces, both scowling at the other. Apollo rubbed his chin, that could be a good sitcom if he was honest. Their argument was cut off by a loud thunderous boom. Oh you just had to ruin the funny. Poseidon told his little brother. No, they need to get going. Hades scowled. Seriously hurry up. You're welcome. Zeus smirked to his eldest brother. Yes, yes, pat yourself on the back. The Lord of the Dead waved off. Both of them turning in sync to glare at the stern statue of Jupiter. Excuse me? What? We were having a bonding/hate moment. Apollo told his father. Before glaring at each other and then turning away childishly. You truly are childish. I have no argument. Apollo muttered as his twin grinned in victory. Piper couldn't take it and broke down into laughter. Yes, I would do that. Piper nodded. Apollo trailed off, maybe not the best thing to do with Roman me, kiddo. He has a point. Jason frowned, wondering what the Roman god would do. Trying so hard to regain her composure while all eyes went to her. Oh. Sorry, but, they, two alike, hilarious, she said in between her snorts and snickers. At least giggle, no snorting, sweetie. I'll laugh how I want, Mom. I find it cute. Thank you Jason. Piper smiled to her boyfriend. Suck up. Keep telling yourself that, Leo. Talia smirked in agreement. The hunter smirked. Yes, it is funny to see. While Jason nervously watched Apollo's face. Aw, so worried for me. Piper pinched Jason's cheek. Of course I would be. He told her honestly. That just made Piper hold his hand. The Romans were not a group of jokers, very true. We can be funny. Frank told the messenger god. Hermes waved his hand, making an iffy motion. Hence why he let Naruto get away with the comment to the large massive rakage. With the gods, it's different. They could either roll with the joke, or they could smite you and your family for it. It was usually the latter. Very true. I blame his mother, said Phoebus with a smirk. Oh, cold. Hermes winced. Yes it was, but we have still yet to meet her fully. Artemis sighed out, eager to see the woman who her brother married. Why the hell did she marry you anyway? Naruto asked with a frown. I would ask the same thing, Hera said with a quirked lip. Ha, ha, Apollo laughed dryly at the jab to his many escapades. Let's stop before someone's feelings, or body, gets hurt, said Phoebus with his smirk still in place. If I wasn't sure that you'd retaliate fully, I'd punch you in the gut for that sentence. Yes, our Apollo is fine with a hit or two. You mean your love taps? The archer said to his twin. No, those are hits. You just think them love taps. Harsh. The sun god pouted. I'm not my stupid self, Naruto. Hey. He isn't wrong. Whatever owl pellets. I think you know that by now. He may play along with your anger, but I will not, said Phoebus sternly to his son. Naruto muttered something unpleasant, causing him to get cuffed upside the head. Don't think I didn't hear that, Naruto. That's no way to talk about your father. Hey, that's from my side, not yours. But weren't you merged as one? Athena, please stop talking. You cannot tell me what to do. The wisdom goddess huffed. Poseidon gave her a dry look. Yes, we know. Ow. You used more than average strength. I'm recovering from a concussion, jackass. Yeah. Don't damage the goods. Your head is too hard for me to give you love taps. A trait that most of your children share, mind you, Hades said, jabbing Zeus with a pointed grin as most of the gods glared at him for it. Where do you think I got that from? See? The rich god pointed to the screen. The boy clearly agrees. Zeus' glare just intensified. Humph, brat. Apollo snorted and crossed his arms. Don't you think you should be heading back to the degrading camp? The Greeks looked greatly offended by this. How did you? I don't think I want to know, said Naruto. He turned to leave the temple, only stopped when coming up the steps was the other praetor. Oh joy, Talia said in a snide tone, not liking the girl. She was joined by Piper and Annabeth as well, due to their respected boyfriends. Aphrodite on the other hand was grinning ear to ear. Reyna was dressed in her usual attire, a purple toga hung over her frame. She smiled at him. Ah, the farewell drama. The love goddess sighed out. I'm glad to see your safe return, Naruto, said Reyna. I bet she is, Piper frowned, so not a fan of their pairing, but that was just her prejudice of the girl. Naruto smiled back, an arm crossing over his chest. She smiled slightly wider, turning to Jason. Welcome back, Jason. Good to be back, Reyna, said Jason with a nod. Shame you couldn't have come. It was eye-opening. Well, Jason smirked, that's one way of saying it. Hopefully you'll have an interesting story to tell me about, said the daughter of Bellona. I think there were a few moments in there. Leo smirked to his buddy. The blonde smirked back, yeah, a few. Reyna's gaze went over the two Greek girls for a moment before she returned her eyes to Naruto. Wow, Piper frowned, not even a hello? She said, rude much? Yeah, Talia said in a clipped tone, a frown on her face. Talia's eye twitched at both being ignored and for the younger girl giving her boyfriend more attention than she needed to. We've been there, Talia, Annabeth said, condescendingly patting her friend on the arm. Piper rolled her eyes, recognizing the girl's crush with ease. Aphrodite beamed with pride, as Piper gave a weak grin. She had always wondered how she could notice these things, even when she thought boys were icky, and it all made sense now with her mother's true identity. You're welcome. Yeah, thanks, that didn't make the preteen years weird. Not at all. You're leaving so soon? Reyna asked the older boy. Aw, Leo said, she sounds so disappointed. I bet she is. You really need to stop being jealous, Talia. Not jealous, McLean. I've taken too long as it is, said Naruto, smiling apologetically. Believe me, Ray-chan, I would have liked to stay here longer, it sounds like that would be interesting. Talia just gave the Lady of Doves a dirty look. But I have other duties to attend to. Yes, like getting back to camp with the cure. Now, Hades said, his tone impatient. Nico was also tapping his foot, clearly impatient as well. A shame, said Reyna with a frown on her pretty face. Yeah, I bet it is you, Talia. Sorry, Lady Artemis. She saluted back to him. I wish you good and safe travel. May Mercury watch over you. What about me? They are Romans. Demeter pointed out. I know, Hermes pouted, but still, a little love people. And may Terminus continue to protect you, Praetor, said Naruto with a smile as they dropped their arms. Or just really annoy you. Percy grinned, getting some laughs. Reyna shifted her gaze to the smirking Phoebus for a brief second and then returned her attention to the god's son. Oh, the love goddess grinned, what's this? She asked in excitement. To the surprise of the others, she moved forward and wrapped her arms around him. What? Talia said in surprise as those that personally knew Reyna were gaping. Naruto looked baffled at the hug, don't look baffled. Get her off. But, free hug? Shut it, matchstick. The hunter glowered at the pyro. Jason bewildered. In fact, this Jason was as well. And Phoebus' smirk was face-splitting. Of course he would be, Apollo said dryly. He was the one to encourage the war child to do so. Piper blinked in surprise. She had thought Reyna was way too stiff to act like this. I know, right? Well, when a girl likes a boy, they tend to do things they normally wouldn't. The mother explained. Still weird. But in a good way, and by the looks of the others in the room, she wasn't the only one. Heck, even the 2 guards posted outside had their jaws popped open. Huzzah! The gift of emotion. Nico praised as Leo gave out a hallelujah. We aren't that stiff. Hazel pouted to her brother. Aha, sure. We aren't. Of course, it was Talia's reaction that really stole the show for Piper. Enjoying my misfortune a little too much, McLean. Do not blame her, Talia, Artemis said as she gazed to the demigoddess mother. It's integrated into her soul. She quipped. Aphrodite was all smiles at that while Piper blanched. She knew that Talia was still mad at Naruto, given the distance the daughter of Zeus had been keeping between them. Oh, kiss and of make-up sex already. Aphrodite. What? But apparently Talia was none too happy about the praetor putting her hands on Talia's man. Wonder where she gets that from? Hera questioned with a look to her husband, who wisely kept his face forward. Talia's eyes were sparking in anger and the clouds over Camp Jupiter were darkening. Yep, she's pissed, Percy said. Well duh, Peter. Mr. D snarked. Her stance shifted from bored to angry and her fists were clenching as her arms crossed over her chest. You tend to do that a lot, Poseidon whispered to his younger brother. Zeus' fists clenched and crossed his arms, an angry frown on his bearded face. He did not. The punk-like daughter of Zeus was definitely not happy with what she was seeing, and quite frankly that was really entertaining Piper for some reason. I hate you, McLean. No you don't. Yeah, I do. If you weren't dating my brother. Talia ground her teeth when she caught the small quick smirk Reyna sent her way. Lola be ballin' hard ball. Leo whistled, clearly impressed by her guts to do that in front of Talia. I've never seen her act like that, Jason admitted. Fight for the love. Aphrodite, must you encourage? Artemis stopped herself. Never mind, she said with a shake of her head. Exactly. The love goddess smiled on her throne. Talia's nostrils flared. Gets that from her father. Hera commented slyly. Talia shot her a dirty glare as her husband shot a betrayed one. The queen just smirked. That bitch was dead. Please don't commit murder in the city. Jason pleaded. I don't know, she is irking me. Smug little. Meanwhile, Phoebus Apollo was extremely proud of the daughter of Bellona. He would be. Apollo rolled his eyes, he happened to like Talia and Naruto together. He was a bit afraid that she'd be too stuck in Lupa's teachings, that's hard to get out of. Jason admitted. Yeah, Piper smirked, still working on getting you out of it. I'm not that bad. The handsome blonde pouted. Piper just gave him a pitying pat on the back. That didn't make him feel better. But apparently her feelings for his son outweighed that. We noticed. Now all he had to do was let Naruto see that he'd be better off with Reyna instead of his half-Greek sister. Jerk. No Talia, romantic plot. No one asked you. The hunter grunted at the smirking love goddess. There would be no way that Mars could boast his children's superiority after this. Really? Frank asked his father's Greek aspect. Don't look too into it. Ares grunted. Frank still smiled though. Thanks, Ray-chan, said Naruto once he got over his surprise, hugging the girl back lightly. Don't hug her back. Talia, chill. Oh please, if that was Percy you'd be foaming at the mouth. Not the point. I'll try to stop by and visit. He shouldn't. Other me would like him to, I bet, Jason pointed out. Jay, whose side are you on? The one where my other gets to see other Piper again. He's got you there, Talia. Piper chirped. The lightning girl just grumbled under her breath. Hearing Naruto talk broke Reyna out of her little trance, causing her to quickly release him and take a step back. Who would want to let go of those muscles? Mom, please. Sorry, sweetie. No can do. Her cheeks lightly flushed, she met his eyes and with as much composure she could manage, but her heart melts from his intense sun-like eyes, the desire in her, yearning for companionship and Apollo, Artemis shouted with a heated glare. Sorry, the arts god said, he couldn't help it. It was just begging to be said. Apollo, write that down for later ideas. You got Dite. Looked at him with a small smile that made Helios make a sound of surprise. Even Helios is shocked. Apollo mock gasped. I hope you do. Goodbye, Naruto. Yeah, Bye, let's go, said Talia, sick of seeing this play out and storming out, grabbing Naruto by the front of his flak jacket as she did, nearly dragging him down the stairs. About time. You know, Annabeth said, glancing at her friend, you're a hunter, but you are way too into this. I'm just relating to my other. That's all. Talia huffed. Yeah, a bit too much. Piper chirped with a glint in her eye. No one asked you, McLean. Just speaking my mind, little Miss Jealous Hunter. What? I am not jealous. Of your other, oh you so are. Aphrodite joined in. Enough, Artemis said, her voice stern as she glared at the ones picking on her hunter. Thank you, Lady Artemis. You can only stop the inevitable for so long, Artemis. The love goddess smirked, we'll be talking about this for a long time to come. Talia grimaced, she was not looking forward to that. But honestly, her, jealous? PSH, yeah right. As she passed the girl, she gave Reina a glare that was readily returned. And so, Apollo announced, the game is afoot. For the affections of one Naruto Uzumaki, Aphrodite sighed out, oh, this is going to be fantastic. No it isn't. Talia muttered, but was rooting for her other. I beg to differ. This was far from over, and both girls knew it. It's like Annabeth and Rachel, but like, 10 times worse. Percy muttered. What was that, seaweed brain? Nothing. Thought so. Piper turned and smiled at Jason. Guess this is goodbye for now. Nice to meet you, Jason, thanks for you know. Boo. Kiss the girl. Leo, Piper said to her friend. Wha? You know you want him too. Not the point. Don't mention it, said Jason, a small smile of his own on his face. Maybe we could do it again sometime, I mean, without all the crazy freaks. You mean the ninjas? Hermes retorted. No, crazy freaks sounds accurate. Yeah, let's give that a try, said Piper with a laugh, it's a date. Jason smiled. Piper smirked, oh yeah. Quickly running after the confused whiskered blonde and his irate girlfriend. Wow, I wonder why Talia's so mad, said Jason as he walked over to Reina's side, that is just Percy-level denseness. Nico whistled out. Hey. Jason frowned, I'm not that bad, Nico. I don't know. No, Annabeth joked, no one is that bad. Thanks wise girl. Anytime, seaweed brain. His fellow praetor watching the 3 Greek demigods as they ran for the gates. Reina said nothing, keeping her gaze on the daughter of Zeus. The gaze of a rival, it spices up everything. Did you do that with Rachel? Annabeth asked the Lady of Doves. All she got was a wide grin. Next time she'd have to do just a bit more, and that was going to be harder than whatever fight Talia put up. It is, being bold is tough for someone like her, Aphrodite sighed out, honestly Lupa, strong this, powerful that. At least let them be girly every once in a while. At least her Roman children were free-spirited like that. Hey, in case you haven't forgotten, I can teleport to the car, said Naruto as soon as they made it to the tunnel that was outside of Camp Jupiter. Talia turned and gave him another glare. I think they're finally going to have that talk. Leo stage whispered. Now? Hades asked, glaring at his niece. Talia just looked back at him. We have issues to talk about, she stubbornly said. With, oh, my daughter dying? 5 minutes, tops? Hades was not amused. Make one of those clones, said Talia. Now. Yeah, send Piper away, Hermes joked, Mommy and Daddy need to talk. Well, while I'm not opposed to this sort of thing, Talia now isn't exactly the T-Woe. He did not just say that, Talia shouted, glaring at him for that. Well, doing this the way you have Leo started, but he stopped with a gulp from her intense gaze, shutting up. Smartest line you've said, matchstick. Okay, Naruto said, placating his girlfriend when her eyes turned into balls of lightning and a sparking fist was held up threateningly. Wow, tighten that leash, Talia. Well, you could learn by example, Annie. Talia stuck her tongue out at the now pink-faced blonde. Percy on the other hand looked indignant at the comment. Holding his hands up, Naruto made his favorite hand seal and a duplicate popped into existence. You, she said, addressing the clone. Take Piper to the car. Piper gave a mock pout, getting Talia to give her a light glare. Why? Piper asked, making Talia turn to her. Yes, my daughter would love to see this. Not for preteens, Talia said. This gonna be ugly, Leo whispered as Nico nodded. It was going to be awesome. Trust me. You're going to want to be at the car, said Talia. At least give her the keys for the radio, Apollo joked, getting some Snickers. Taking her word for it, Piper took the clone's offered hand and they vanished in a flash of light, No sooner did they do that did Taliah smack Naruto across the face. Into the rough stuff, huh? Ares asked with a laugh. Taliah glowered at him. But seriously, Apollo said, slapping him? He deserved it. But that's his best asset. Whatever. Taliah rolled her eyes, like she cared right now. Ow. Taliah-chan, what was that? You do not get to talk right now, Taliah said, her anger at its limit. Oh, this should be good, Poseidon laughed out, if she was anything like Zeus. I'm sick of your lying to me, Whiskers. Why can't you trust me? Hey, the god of truths frowned, he didn't lie. He just didn't speak up. Like that's a difference? Yeah. The god nodded, ignoring the heated glare he got. Wait, we're doing this now? Naruto asked, not his girlfriend specifically. Oh, Apollo blinked, his vision from chapter 1. The god smirked, wow, didn't see that coming right now. He looked at the dark overhead and the dim, torch-like lighting. Oh, guess that makes a bit more sense. Stop ignoring me. Yes, Zeus never liked that. Poseidon. The king glared. What? It's the honest truth. He winked to his nephew, who snickered at the line. I'm not ignoring you, Taliah-chan, said Naruto, looking back at his livid girlfriend. And I do trust you. I trust you with my life. True. Percy pointed out. No one is asking you, Percy, be quiet. Now. And Percy did so, that stormy look in her eyes was plain to see this is important for her. He didn't know how, but it just seemed like it was. Just not with Jason's? She asked scathingly. Ouch, Jason winced, yeah, that wasn't cool. But his other was certain there was a reason. That's not fair, Naruto said, looking hurt. It really isn't. Annabeth told her friend. Like I care. Taliah sniffed. I couldn't tell you about him because it wasn't safe too. We were on a quest to save Aunt Artemis, Taliah-chan. And after the quest? What was stopping you from telling me then, Point to me. Taliah crossed her arms. You think Raijiji would have let you go rushing off to find the Romans? Naruto asked. The two camps were separated for a reason, a stupid reason, but point to him, Zeus admitted, looking at the heated glare his daughter was giving him. We separated them for a reason. A good one, mind you, Hades pointed out. The death count of that war? By chaos. Here we go again with you and your Olympian damned reasons, Taliah said, cutting him off with her arms in the air. Damned, Zeus frowned at his daughter. I was angry. I say things when I'm angry. The hunter countered. Like Zeus does. Poseidon snorted, such a hypocrite as always. He just smirked at the glare sent his way. Dropping them to her sides, she glared at him. When are you going to give me a straight answer, Naruto? Taliah, Bianca is dying. Do we really have to do this right now? Yeah, Taliah, what the hell? Nico glared at his cousin. Sorry? Yeah, real sorry. The goth boy sneered. Yes. If I let you put it off, you'll never answer me and damn it I am not going to let this go, Taliah said. Listen to yourself. This is Bianca. Your cousin. Nico's sister. Yeah, Taliah, the hell is your deal? Nico said, more like demanded. Taliah didn't retort, knowing it wouldn't be good enough for Nico to accept. He's lucky to have a sister to worry about. Jason is my brother who I thought was dead for years. I had a right to know where he was. Her eyes were filling with tears. Do you know how long I've thought he was dead? How long I thought it was my fault he died. That my mother was punishing me? Jason turned to his sister in surprise and she turned her head away, a pained look in her eyes. That was always hard for her in the beginning. Jason grabbed her hand and squeezed it tightly as he noted that it shook ever so slightly, but said nothing of it. You had every right to know, Taliah, but I couldn't tell you. Do you know what Raijiji would have done to me if I tried? Naruto said. He gestured behind him. I was exiled and sworn into secrecy unless absolutely necessary. You're damn lucky that quests are part of that clause, otherwise you never would have reunited unless you ran into each other. He's got another point. Hades mused. Taliah still didn't like that at all. When would that have been? Taliah said, shouting at him as tears pooled up in her eyes. He could hear the storm brewing from within the tunnel. Naruto didn't know what brought this on, but he guessed now he had to deal with it. I don't know, Naruto said, admitting that with a scowl. Oh, that nice, Taliah said in a scathing tone, wonderful. What, the prophetic son not able to see clearly now? Taliah asked. Okay, Apollo said in a calm tone with his hands together and over his mouth, that was a cheap blow. Not caring. I'm starting to get the feeling you're more loyal to the gods than to your friends. Percy winced at that. Wow, Taliah was not letting anything go here. Naruto felt as though he was struck and he knew his face showed it. And I would feel the same, Percy said, ignoring the glare Talia was giving him. Even if she herself felt that may, and that was a big may, have crossed the line. Frowning at his girlfriend, Naruto clenched his jaw and said stiffly, "I'm going to let that one go because you're upset." "How generous." The hunter mumbled, not really wanting to hear any more to be honest. She was feeling upset with all this angst. "You're damn right I'm upset," Talia said with a scowl. "You should have told me, Naruto. He's my brother." "You don't think I knew that?" Naruto said, his own voice rising to match hers. Ares gave a cheer at the shouting match, but his eldest aunt's glare shut him up. Much to his disappointment. "Don't you think I wanted to tell you? That I wanted to show you he was alive? I wanted nothing more than to tell you that your brother was alive, grown up and kicking ass just like his sister." "Well," Jason said, "he isn't wrong." The boy grinned. Talia grinned back. "No, I suppose not," she said, ruffling his short blonde hair affectionately. "I couldn't, Talia, and it tore me apart inside." "Oh, I sincerely doubt." "Don't you dare finish that sentence," Naruto said, his eyes glowing in anger as he cut her off. "Yeah, you crossed the line." Apollo gave a mock clap. "Way to go." He deadpan cheered, getting the hunter to flush in embarrassment. It wasn't her fault stupid things came out of her mouth when she was angry. "Don't you dare." Naruto took a shuddering breath in order to calm down a bit. "You were in limbo, Talia, so you didn't meet them. The fates," he spat their name in anger and disgust. "If I were on the crooked asshole's side, they would be my first target." "Ah, not much a fan it seems." Hades commented. "I'm not." Percy added, "Not cool." "Well," Apollo hummed, "thank us that he isn't on the other side, huh?" he asked, and the demigods shuddered at that thought. Naruto was scary. Primordial or not, they control free will, something I had a strong belief in until I died. When I found out that my life was predetermined. Predestined, he looked livid even thinking of it. I was horrified. Everything I knew was a lie. "Hermes, no cake jokes." Apollo frowned. Hermes pouted, "Right, I know, but it was right there." "I know, brother, I know." Was the wistful tone of his son brother. Talia watched as Naruto seemed to crumble before her. It was strange, seeing one who stood so strong and proud look so defeated. It shook her enough to forget her anger for the moment. Amazing. Poseidon and Hades droned as one. No, if only her father could do that. Zeus glared at them though, knowing what they were thinking. "People that could have died for no reason. It would have been my fault," said Naruto. "I lucked out against my cousin Nagato, the self-proclaimed god of rain." "Self-proclaimed," Zeus scoffed, "ignorant mortals." All the other gods nodded with him on that one. "He obliterated my village looking for me. Over 18,000 civilians, half of those were children in the center of the village when he obliterated it. If I couldn't convince him." Naruto closed his eyes, recalling the horrible sight he returned to after mastering his sage training. "Wow, harsh," Nico winced, "that was scary, even for him." He looked at Talia, his eyes brimming with tears. "I was told that despite the choice he made, I would have still ended up here. Meeting Annie. Meeting Luke, meeting you. Talia, I gave my life for you and you still almost died. Imagine how I felt when I learned that would have happened regardless of what I did." Talia flinched at that. She couldn't even imagine how he could feel from that. He tried so hard to save her, but she still would have been a tree. It was horrible. Talia flinched. She couldn't imagine that, learning that whatever choice you made would be irrelevant to what happened to others since it was already decided what would happen to them. All the demigods nodded. That was the scariest thing about the fates. Who knew what could happen? "I told a guy back at the village when I was younger that there was no such thing as fate," said Naruto, a bitter laugh escaping him as he and Talia, who had been told the story, recalled the Chunin exam fight against Neji. Ouch, that must have made it hurt even worse. Apollo winced for his son. Neji was so right about its existence, but he was fated to lose, ironically. "I based my life on that I would make my own path, but when my world crashed down around me." Naruto struggled to continue. After a moment of silence his eyes, large and a bit red from fighting back the tears, met hers. "The thing is, Talia, sometimes the truth is far too hard to believe." "Sorry, the truth," God muttered, his kid was right. The truth was always a scary thing when it came to matters about the real world. "I still had a right to know," said Talia stubbornly, albeit quieter than before. "Oh, just be silent and hug already." Aphrodite groaned. She loved a good spat, but this was getting frustrating. Kiss already. Or at least hug. Something. "Talia, if I had told you Jason was alive, would you have believed me?" Naruto asked her. With no concrete proof other than oh yeah, he's just in California with the Roman demigods that live in their own camp, could you honestly say that you believed me? And tally another point to the sun child. Hera noted. Talia didn't even bother to glare at her, as she herself contemplated the question. Talia clenched her fists. She desperately wanted to say yes, but knew she couldn't. The raven-haired girl bit on her lip as she refused to accept that she wouldn't have believed him. The thing was, her hope for finding Jason had been squashed when she was a little girl. Talia frowned at that while Jason rubbed her back in support. That made her feel a little better. She had missed Jason for far too long to just jump at the possibility of him being alive. Her silence made Naruto smile bitterly and she fought down the tears as the horrible truth washed over her. She wouldn't have believed Naruto. She would have wanted to, desperately wanted to, but if Naruto couldn't take her to him or tell her where Jason was, Talia would never completely believed him. And that doubt would have been worse than having no hope at all. And without hope, all can be lost, Hestia said in a sad tone, giving Percy a knowing look. And how could the son of the sea not remember that little bit of hope in a box? She felt herself walk into his embrace absent-mindedly, hugging him just as tightly as he did her. Her face was burrowed in his chest as the emotions overcame her, tears rolling down her cheeks. "Ah," cooed some of the women and girls, it was a touching moment. "It's not fair," she said softly, fighting the tears back as they flowed. Depressed she may be, but that didn't mean she was just going to bawl, damn it. It helps to let it out, you know. Jason noted to his sister. "No, thanks," Talia frowned, she wasn't a crying, "Nope, never again." "I know," he said in the same tone. His hand lightly brushed through her hair and he hummed softly to her while she struggled with her reaction. In the back of his mind, he knew logically they should be rushing back to Bianca, but that was his subconscious. Hades had pursed lips towards his employee, but even he could admit, the boy needed this too. But he wasn't going to say anything about it. He had his reputation to protect for being a hardass. Naruto knew that he had to be right here, right now. His lips pressed against the top of her head for a second, pulling away and resuming his comforting humming. "Snuggly? I will drown you, little elf, I swear." "Geez," Leo jumped back from her punch, "just messing, chill chica." "Don't call me chica, either, elf." "K," the mechanic said with his hands in the air for surrender. "Why does all this shit happen to us?" Talia asked quietly. "Because the fates love us," said Naruto bitterly. "True." Percy noted dryly, "They did love to mess with them sadly." "Fuck them." Talia Grace. "I am not sorry," and Hestia. Talia informed her, she was in full agreement with her other. Hestia just pursed her lips, unpleased by that. "Amen to that." "Amen," said all the demigods, grinning away. "What do you think is taking them so long?" Piper asked as she sat in the passenger's seat. "Make out?" Hermes asked with a grin. Apollo rubbed his chin. "Possible," he said in an amused tone. "Oh, grow up you two," Artemis frowned, the moment between them would have been ruined if they did that. It was very sweet in her opinion. Her nephew was a fine young man as well, he just continued to impress her. "Well, considering the storm overhead, I'm guessing Talia-chan is still chewing Oyabun out." The clone of Naruto said, fiddling with the radio. "Aw," Hermes pouted, the clone ruined the surprise. "Not much a surprise with the storm clouds." Jason told his godly brother. "True." The god conceded. "Man, what's with the sudden rise in pop? I mean, it's not bad, but, come on, where's the good stuff?" "Meh," Apollo shrugged, "more business for me." "And me," Hermes said, sending a dark look to his brother. "Not my fault, Herm, it really isn't." "Sure." The thief didn't believe to artist at all. "What's good stuff?" Piper asked in amusement. "Let's find out," Apollo grinned, wondering what his kid's taste was. "You know, stuff like Limp Bizkit nu metal I think it's called," said the clone. "Granted it's not as popular as it once was, I still think it's a pretty cool blend of everything." "True," the music god hummed in thought. "What's the difference between nu metal and metal?" Piper asked, confused. "Oh Piper," the music god palmed his face, "you just had to open up that can of worms, didn't you?" "Sorry?" "That is a long and tedious conversation," said the Naruto clone with a sigh. "Music is music and genres only further separate people when it was made to bring people together. Sure, Dad's domain has widened because of the different genres, but look at how it's managed to separate people. We've got cliques, posses, gangs and groups who are separated by their differences, a taste of music being part of it. People should be celebrating all music, not just genres." "I know." Apollo groaned out, "It was something to celebrate, not split people up even more." Artemis patted his shoulder, knowing he was only trying to bring mortals happiness through his art. The sun god nodded back, grateful for the support. Whatever you say, said Piper, her eyes rolling in amusement. She jumped when there was a sudden flash next to her. Looking out the window, she found Taliah and Naruto standing close together, their hands intertwined. Now isn't that sweet? Aphrodite cooed, a smile on her face that another hurdle passed by her current favorite couple. Taliah seemed to reluctantly pull hers away before knocking on the window. Piper rolled the window down and grinned at the older girl. So, anything interesting happen? Cute. Taliah mock glared at the girl, who was giving an innocent smile on her face. But the impish look of her eyes gave her away. Get in the back seat, Piper, said Taliah, a small amused smile on her face. Piper gave a whine and Taliah shook her head. Not gonna work, now get in the back or I'll shock you. Wow, how kind of you. Piper frowned to the hunter. What you get for making fun? Taliah smirked back. She's not kidding, said the clone before it dispelled itself. Piper sighed sadly before clambering into the back, the car doors opening as the two older teens got in the car. They buckled up and quickly got back on the road, Piper and Taliah talking about the camp while Naruto once more thanked Hikari for the cover. Ah, the third rival. The love goddess hummed. Great. Taliah rolled her eyes. Why did the love goddess love to make her life a hassle? Seriously. Well, that was an adventure and a half, said Helios, chiming in. Nearly 45 minutes on the road. They were already passing through Nevada. Oh, Demeter blinked, there he is. I had almost forgotten about him since he was so quiet. You're telling me? Naruto thought to his past life. So, care to explain why the vision I got that was so repetitive was so different than what actually happened? Helios, Apollo said in a deep tone, speak thy wisdom, for we seek it so. Ham. Apollo grinned to his sister, you know you love it. His grin widened at the small amused smile he got back. That was your mind interpreting the scenario. You didn't see the gifts from the hidden lands because of your mindset on not going back. However, granted that promise, I'll bet that opinions changed a bit, hasn't it? Helios asked with what Naruto knew to be a smirk on his face. Ha, pretty cool and accurate. The god of prophecy nodded. Maybe, Naruto thought. I don't mean to bring this up, but that Bellona girl. What about her? Oh, support or deny? The love goddess grinned wildly, eager to know Helios' opinion. She reminded me a lot of Road. Huh? The gods, mainly Poseidon, gaped. Who? Percy blinked. A daughter of your dad's, Percy, Annabeth told him. Also, she stumbled through this, Helios' wife. Percy blinked, again. Whoa. He muttered in shock. Naruto blinked in surprise. Excuse me? I think she might be Road incarnated. Helios said, shocking Naruto to the point he nearly forgot about traffic in front of him. Whoa, watch it, kid. But she's Roman, Athena stammered out. Poseidon would have called her out on that, but he was still in shock. Well, Hades smirked after recovering from his surprise. Reincarnation, if funny like that, he laughed, but still, this was surprising all the same. The Road, Whiskers, Taliah said, bracing herself against the dash. Shit. Naruto swerved on the highway, trying to narrowly avoid hitting of the slower cars. He went to grab the emergency brake, but his hand brushed over something that gave off an audible click. He didn't. Hephaestus groaned, knowing what happened. Oh, crap, said Naruto, looking at what his hand grabbed onto. He did, Hermes laughed out. The visor dropped down and the mirror in it slid away to reveal a heads-up display that said one thing to him. SOL engine activated. Leo whistled, dude pushed the no button. Foo. Naruto couldn't finish his word as the car suddenly streamlined, shooting forward and making the group feel the G-forces push them into their seats. G-force, Leo cried out, getting laughs. Several poor cars were in Naruto's path, getting plowed out of the way. Naruto had enough sense to make a sharp turn to the right, busting through the guardrail and flying through the desert of Nevada, Arizona, New Mexico and finally Texas. Leo blinked at that and made a silent no way, with his mouth and grinned. To any witnesses, they saw what was known as the Marfa lights, or rather, one large golden Marfa light. That may have been my fault, the sun god announced, midnight runs on the ride. Honestly, Apollo, at least stick to your time schedule. I said I was sorry. They came to a stop on a long suburban road, trails of fire burning behind the wheels and the check engine light flashing on the HUD. Marty, Apollo said in a familiar scientist's voice, we've done it. Done what, Doc? Leo asked in a bewildered tone. We're back, Apollo paused, into the future. He announced and laughs filled the chamber. Oh, the classics, how you had to love them. Naruto was so grateful that the seatbelts were reinforced as they slammed forward, their voices catching up with them. The three demigods groaned, Taliah unbuckling her seatbelt and throwing her door open, tumbling out of the car. Naruto did the same, groaning as he hit the asphalt. Epic face plant is epic. Leo, Piper frowned, not cool. Yes it is. The pyro mumbled with a pout. Remind me to kick Beckendorf's ass for not putting a cover on that thing, said Naruto. That was a bad move on his part, Leo nodded. You always put a cover over the important buttons. Remind me to, help you, said Piper, covering her mouth and looking a little green. Piper, there is nothing wrong with your weight. Don't do this to yourself, Piper hissed. I am not anorexic, she shouted to the hunter, who was grinning at her joke. Never again. Good. I hate you, Taliah. I love you too, Piper. Seconded, said Taliah, groaning as she got to her feet. She winced and rubbed her sore stomach where the seatbelt nearly bisected her on the stop. She looked over the hood of the car at her boyfriend. So, think it'll start? Seriously? Leo asked her, like she was a moron. Taliah flushed, not a car chick, forgive me, she said scathingly. Meh, it's cool. The mechanic waved off. Naruto shrugged and got back in, grabbing the keys and trying to turn it over. No such luck. Groaning and rolling his head back to smack against the seat, Naruto's eyes closed. God damn it, said Naruto with a groan. Isn't that sacrilegious? Piper asked. The demigod snorted at that. Funny. What? It's a good question. Piper flushed. Only for people 17 and up, said Taliah with a smirk to the younger girl. So we can do that when we're older? Nico asked. Hades looked at him. No. Damn. Nico D'Angelo. Sorry Aunt Hestia. Damn. Good counter, Piper. Leo snickered. Oh, be quiet, Leo. We'll allow that, said Naruto, chuckling at the daughter of Aphrodite's swear. See, Naruto agrees with me. Leo smirked. With a sigh, Naruto made sure the emergency brake was off and then got out of the car. Gripping the frame and his seat, he began to push, struggling slightly since he was pushing Stygian iron and who knows what else. So where's the closet body shop? Frank asked in wonder with a grin, getting some laughs. Taliah decided to help him, and though the thought was generous and welcomed, Naruto was well aware he was doing just a bit more to move the car. Taliah pout, she had upper body strength. And she bet she was doing way more than he was letting on. Humph. It was about 10 minutes and that some kid sitting on a stoop called them out. Hey Yankees. Got car trouble? Yankees? Hazel blinked. Well, it has New York plates. Apollo pointed out. He works for me, Hades pointed out, should have been California plates. Lives at camp, New York plate. Hades just waved his sunny nephew off. Naruto looked over his Challenger's roof for the kid and found him. Another unfortunate sufferer of lack of height that looked a bit like his mischievous uncle. What's this? Leo perked up. No way. Piper's jaw dropped a little. With his keen eyes, Naruto could see the boy's tan skin and elfish features with ease. Oh, it is. Leo grinned, finally. Bless the fates. Jason muttered and let a whistle out. Wow, just, wow. The dark messy hair and some smudges on his handsome face showing him that this kid was no stranger to getting dirty. Damn right he isn't. Leo smirked wildly. His ingrained and trained senses at finding demigods were going off and Naruto narrowed his eyes just slightly before beaming. Demigod radar is a go for the hottest kid you've ever known. Leo mock cheered by cupping his mouth. Easy, hothead. Come on Uncle Apollo, don't be hatin' the swagger. Oh, I would never. Yeah, wanna give us a hand, Squirt? Who the hell are you calling Squirt, Gringo? Yeah Gringo, shut it or I won't fix that right like the genius I am, said Leo with a frown. You best do it. Hades glared. Yeah, duh, of course. Leo sweated out and gave a weak smile. Naruto laughed at the rise he got out of the kid. Didn't mean any harm by it. What's your name? Let's hear a round of applause for Tilda. Name's Leo Valdez, said the kid, who stood from his perch, a puckish grin on his handsome. Leo, we get it. Enough, said Piper with a frown. Sorry, love child. Face. You've got a nice challenger, Blondie. That he does and that will be my next toy to play with. Oh yeah. Leo grinned. Shit just got real.